You don't exist. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look me better. Put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper than again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 16th part of What If Deku and Hero Academia Joins Power Rangers. Special note, this fanfic is written in a masterpiece of GokuMuto on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. My Hero Academia universe, a high school principal's office morning. Present. After hearing all of this from his student, Nezu was just pondering this, his eyes closed for a moment before reopening them at the ranger. I see. So you made a deal with the leader of the fallen angel in order to prove Miss Taoju innocent, Nezu said, seeing the bigger picture before speaking again. Not that I'm judging your decision, young Amamiya, but are you sure it was wise to give away such information to someone you just met? Ren, no, it wasn't really the best idea to give someone like Azazel information about them so openly. But he wanted to help Kuroka at all costs. I know it wasn't really the smartest thing to do at the time, Ren said, admitting his mistake. But I am willing to do whatever it takes to prove Kuroka innocent, he said with a serious tone, which made Kuroka happy to hear. Besides, it's not like I gave Azazel any useful information about how to create our technology. Just some history video about the Rangers' adventures. You should know, Nezu, that trust is a two-way street. Without setting any common ground, then a relationship can't be formed, he said, impressing his teacher yet again. Kuroka quietly looked at Ren and she could see the fierce determination in his eyes. Any other person would be scared shitless if some otherworldly beings were trying to get them. But not the ranger. The word scared was apparently not in his vocabulary. She knew if any supernatural being or evil force tried something stupid, then she knew that they will get a surprise fighting them head on and eventually their folly would end in miserable defeat. This fearlessness was one of the reasons why she's so attracted to him in the first place, and she has no doubt that he can take care of himself. I'm so going to make some kittens with him the first chance I get, Kuroka thought with a lustful smirk. You truly are a kind person, Amamiya, Nezu said as he was proud of his student. And that type of attention can take your place or end up leading you astray. As I said, I don't blame you for your choice, but do be more careful in the future, he said with his tone being graver. He's right, Ren. You were lucky that this time around, but it won't be like that for every person you meet, Tommy said to his student. I will, sirs, Ren said with a nod before making a frowning expression. But this, I'm a bit concerned with what we saw in the other world. Silence took over the atmosphere as everyone expresses shifted to discomfort with what Ren said. Tommy and Nezu looked at each other feet with concerned thoughts at what they learned from Ren's time in the other world. Sayla, who had a calm and stoic look, and Kuroka, who had a frown, remained silent as the two women watched the people of this world talk about the past ranger villains, with the two hearing Eri slightly shift in her sleep while the demoness arms. You're talking yours and Midori is entire with two past ranger villains that were already defeated showing up in another world, Tommy said, asked as he had a thinking pose on. The white pterosaurus and Rustafa are the most one of the few dangerous enemies the past rangers ever faced. It was a good thing you both were there to stop them, or else I fear what would have happened if they succeed in their goal, Nezu said with an uneasy tone at the mere thought. Yeah, even if it isn't our world, we're not going to abandon anyone in danger, Ren replied with seriousness. Spoken like a true hero, Nezu said with a smile at how his students are willing to help others no matter the world that they're in. In any case, if there are any more of your enemies revived like White Pterosaurus and Rustafa, then we must be ready to face them when they make their appearance, he said with a serious tone. Not to mention the Shy Hasekai clan and Overhaul, who were still at a loss, with Tsukachi and the police force looking for the escaped villains. Not to mention that Break-In and the traitor among us. I can't shake this feeling that this is the calm before the storm. Tommy adds his own concerns. And that's what we'll do, sirs, Ren said to him with a nod. We'll protect the earth and stop anyone who threatens it no matter what, he stated seriously. And they won't do it alone, Kuroka said with a smirk as she wrapped her arms around Ren's neck behind his back. We'll be there fighting right by the ranger's side. Isn't that right, Sayla? She asked the Etherius woman. Everyone then turned their gazes from Kuroka towards Sayla as the she-demon stared back at them. Her expression still had that stoic stare in her eyes, but as Ren continued to gaze at her, he saw some form of reluctance and embarrassment in her eyes. After gazing into each other's eyes for what seemed to be a long time from the two's perspective, Sayla slowly nodded in agreement as she turned her eyes away from Ren. Ren, Nezu, and Holotomi smiled at her response, with Kuroka laughing a little bit, but unfortunately, it was loud enough for Eri to start lightly shuffling in Sayla's grasp, catching their attention onto the white-haired girl. "Oh, Eri, sorry about waking you." Ren spoke softly while Eri lifted her head and she slowly opened her tired eyes. Upon spotting Ren, the groggy little white-haired girl let out a soft yawn before turning from her brother and towards everyone in the room. As Eri fully began to wake and had a tiny smile on her face to see familiar faces. "Ren, Kuroka," Eri said with a joyful expression. "Good morning." "And good morning to you, sweetie," Kuroka cooed, her voice filled with unwavering confidence while placing her hand on the girl's head and gently brushing a lock of hair Eri's ear. "Did you slept well?" she said with a soft smile as Eri reminded her of her little sister. "I did, Kuroka," Eri said with a cute squeal from being touched on the head, as she thought of the Nekashu like a older sister figure. Then she looked back up at the demon who she was sitting on and buried her face into her chest. "Morning, Sayla," the white-haired girl happily said to the demoness while nuzzling into Sayla. But the demon had no experience in comforting another person and began to slowly caress Eri's hair. "Good morning as well, Eri," Sayla said with her stoic expression morphing into an awkward look, as she rubbed Eri's back too. "It's good to see you up and well." Eri looked up and nodded her head to the Etherius with a warm smile. Normally, if any other human did this to Sayla, she would have not responded like she did to the little horn girl, but made an exception when it came to Eri, since she was her master's little sister. Despite the female Etherius exiled from Tartaros and a change of heart, Sayla still disliked humans and found them all annoying. It was in her nature as a demon, and even if Ren ordered her to, she could never put on a bright smile and a positive attitude to talk to other humans except for himself, his teammates, and his family. Ren was happy to see his sister acting like a normal child without the trauma those Yakuza bastards did to her, realizing that Eri still hadn't experienced the simple pleasure of having choices before. The thought of helping Eri expand her horizon so that she could make her own decisions without him around would be good for her growth. But the ranger knew it would be a delicate process. Eri was still skittish, unaccustomed to being around other people, especially those she's just met. Ren relied on her knowledge of childhood trauma to help Eri in a way that would promote healing, understanding that the path to recovery could be long and uncertain. But for now, Ren was going to support his sister in any way he could when Eri is ready to stand onto her 2 feet without help. "Principal Nezu, if it's already with you, can we show Eri around the campus today?" Ren asked the little animal man. It could be a good way to help her break out of her shell. Hearing this made Nezu bream with excitement over the thought. "That sounds like an excellent idea, young Amamiya," Nezu said to his student with a smirk. "You have my permission to explore the campus as long as you don't take her to any dangerous places," he said to Ren. Ren nodded back to the principal in response before looking back at his sister with a smile. "Hey Eri, you want to explore the school today with me?" he asked his little sister, seeing her eyes light up in excitement. "I'd like that," Eri replied happily before standing up from Sayla's lap and running up to her brother. Ren then used his replication ranger powers to create a second act copy of himself that appears in a yellow flash, as the look-alike was standing over Eri before kneeling down to the girl's level. This power belongs to Elizabeth C. Delgado, the SPD, Yellow Ranger. Z has the ability to create holographic clones of herself. The clones are able to take physical form or simply remain as holograms, and Z has the ability to change places with the clones while creating them. "So you ready for another fun day?" Ren's clone asked her while patting her head. "Okay," Eri said to the clone with a bright smile. "Bye, everyone." She waved to people in the room. "Have fun out there, sweetheart, Naya," Hiroka said, waving back with a smile. "Stay safe too," Ren said to his sister, with Sayla, Nezu, and Holotomi silently waved the girl off. Eri gave them one last cheerful smile and took the clone of her brother's hand as they walked through the door of the room, and out of sight of the others, with Nezu chuckling happily at the wonderful sight. "It's good to see that she's finally acting like an ordinary child," Nezu said with a small smile at how much Eri has changed since they first found her. "It warms my tiny little heart to see such innocent." Yes, she has made much progress being away from those villains, but she still shows signs of hesitant on even walking up to people and new faces she's not familiar with. Holotomi said, remembering how she was when Kuroka and Sayla started living with them until she finally grew comfortable enough to be around them. "It was thanks to Ren that Eri was able to open up to us quicker," Kuroka said with a smile, as Sayla was silent but thought in agreement with the Yaokai woman. Plus, she's so cute and fun to be around that it reminded me so much of my own sister. Anyone who hurts that child will suffer a painful end, Sayla said coldly in a nonchalant tone. Yeah, she differently worth protecting, Ren said before his gazing up at the clock in Nezu's office. We should get going, cause class starts in an hour, he said with him and Sayla standing up from their chairs as he puts on his book bag. And Holo Tommy returned back to the Master Morpher. I suppose I shouldn't keep you here any longer. If anything new or strange happens, then I'll be sure to inform you, Nezu said to them with his usual smile. Have a wonderful first day as a Hero Course student, Miss Sayla, and I'll be sure to inform the other teachers about Kuroka being here with you, so as not to cause a misunderstanding. He told the three. Thanks, Nezu. We'll be in touch if something comes up, Ren said to him with Kuroka right behind them as she clung onto his back. Seriously, Kuroka, now of all times. But you're so warm, Ren, Kuroka said with a teasing pout, with her two tails swinging around. Plus I can't do this a lot with Eri around us, she said, making the boys' eyes roll as they began to leave Nezu's office. Sayla quickly nodded back to the small creature in silence, with a dutiful Sayla following behind him and her master in the Nekishu before closing the door behind. Don't mention it, and I hope you all enjoy your time at UA, Nezu said back to them as he watches the door close behind them. When they were gone, his face morphed into a serious one, before pulling up the recording of the break-in once more and began to watch it. Just what are these villains' angles in attacking my school? The principal of UA pondered out loud with narrow eyes at the intruder in the video. Then suddenly the phone in Nezu's office began to ring, and it got the creature's attention before picking it up to his ear. Hello, this is Nezu, Nezu replied on the phone. Warning, Principal Nezu. This is Detective Tsukachi, the detective said over the phone, which made the creature smile in delight. And a good morning to you as well, Tsukachi, Nezu said to the man. What do I owe the pleasure of this call? It's about that investigation you had me look into about Midoriya's and Bakugo's former schools, Tsukachi said with a slightly serious tone. After talking to the students and staff of Aldera Junior High, I've learned some pretty disturbing things that you might want to see for yourself. Nezu's ears twitched upon here as his attention was now on the detective's next few words. I'm sending you a copy of the file on your computer now, Tsukachi said to the creature before ending the call. Nezu then quickly moved over to his computer, and after a few seconds he showed a new email that Tsukachi sent him, before clicking it open to see a number of files on it, with him beginning to pore over the eyewitness reports and security footage. There was evidence, so much evidence that Nezu could likely get Aldera Junior High and the other schools that Midoriya attend shut down within the hour. But Nezu would never settle for a small victory in this case. His fur bristles, his teacup rattling as his paw shakes. These monsters saw one of the most promising minds Nezu had even had the pleasure of meeting and had the audacity to try and destroy him. Patience. Nezu takes a deep breath. Anger will only make him sloppy. As frustrating as it is, Nezu knows that this situation is delicate. If he acts carelessly, the Aldera district will burn the junior high to save the elementary and high school. He'll need a significant offense, preferably more than one, that would justify investigating the district itself and not the school. Criminals are much like bugs, Nezu finds. The moment a threat presents itself, they scurry out of sight to continue another day. Nezu will not give them that other day. Currently, the 67th clip that was recovered of Bakugou Katsuki and Midoriya Izuku is played on his screen. And much like the previous 67 clips of these particular students, the moment Bakugou was anywhere near Midoriya, it ended. Nezu's ears pull back, and his sharp teeth pull at his mouth. No one could deny that this footage was altered. But without the originals, Nezu wouldn't be able to properly bring Bakugou to heel. It was, however, another nail in Aldera's sizable coffin. And oh, it has been so long since Nezu was a grave digger. I hope they have very good lawyers, because that won't be enough for the hell I'm about to unleash onto them, Nezu said with an evil grin on his face as if he was going to look forward to crushing them. Outside of the room, the three were in the hallway with the sound and sight of students making their way to their respective classes. So now what do we do, master? Sayla asked her master what they were going to do next. We still got time before classes start, so why don't we go pay a visit to the support course to see how Alpha and the others are doing? Ren says to them, as he wanted to see what his robotic friends were up to. I'm also curious to know when the teleportation system is going into operation, he said, making Sailor raise an eyebrow. You mean that means of transportation that some of your predecessors used to travel around? Sayla asked with a bit of interest in her voice despite her emotionless expression. Yup, it definitely going to come in handy in the future, Ren said back as he felt Kuroka tug on his shirt to get his attention on her. Kuroka, he exclaimed as he noticed that she was looking at him strangely. The black-haired girl smiled softly, but her eyes still held some sadness in them. There was silence for a good minute as Sayla watched Kuroka staring at her master with an expression that the Etherius has never seen the Nekishu express before, and observed what the Yaokai woman was going to do now. Then Kuroka finally spoke up to her lover. "Just when I think I've had you figured out, you always found a way to surprise me," Kuroka said to him in a gentle tone, while rubbing his left hand in her hands. "But I guess that was one of the reasons why I fell for you so hard, Naya. I'm full of surprises, Kuroka, and you haven't seen anything yet to what I'm truly capable of when I'm serious," Ren asked his newest girlfriend, with her smiling brightly at the question. "Which is why you're going to stay here to see more of what I can do." "I agree with you. This place is more comfortable than you would think from where I usually lived," Kuroka replied as she was really enjoying her time in this new world. Truthfully, the best part about this world's society where everyone had a superpower was that it made it easy for someone like Kuroka to blend in, and she didn't need to worry about any devil hunters coming after her anymore. "Exactly. While you're here in this world, you're completely safe from the devils," Rin replied back to her. "Yeah, but I hope Shiren is okay," Kuroka said sadly, having a little regret in her voice. "Don't worry, I have a feeling that she'll be fine," Ren said, placing a hand on her shoulder for comfort. "She's a strong girl from what you told me about her, so a few days gone from your world isn't going to be the end of her." He gave her a rendering smile, which lifted the Nekishu's worries away. "Hopefully your plan work will be enough to help me," Kuroka said to him with a bitter face and eyes down on the floor. "I just can't wait to see her again in person." "I'm sure it will. Once Azazel makes good on his part of our deal, we'll give the great Satan who helped Shiren out the evidence needed to prove you're innocent," Ren stated seriously to her with a nod. Hearing this made Kuroka smiles before embracing him in a hug. "Kuroka," Ren said, surprised by the sudden hug. "I just wanted to say thank you again for everything," Kuroka said before leaning in closer to Ren and giving him a passionate kiss, which he leans into, as some of the students nearby were shocked or blushing from the exchange. Most of the male students in the hallway who were looked at the ranger with a mixture of respect or envy at how could score such a hot girl like that to be his girlfriend and call him a lucky bastard. They were joking about paying anything to trade places with him, while the female students expressed the same feelings like the guys towards Kuroka, but it was with how attractive the black Nekishu is compared to them, and wished they had sexy busty adult figures like her. Sayla silently watched the exchange with her unusual neutral expression, but on the inside the beautiful black-haired Etherius couldn't help but feel a little envious at how her master's attention was on the Nekishu. After the days she spent with Ren, Sayla discovered a lot of new things about humans. They were strange and their living style was interesting, to say the least. They had things that she never saw in the books back in her old world. With every passing day, she was growing more and more attached to Ren. He was just irresistible. There was something about him that made her attracted to him. She just couldn't help it. Sayla still had a dislikement towards humans in general, with the exception of her master, his family, and the other rangers. Other than respect and admiration, Sayla still had some special feelings for Kyoka, as she had ended up in her former mistress Demon's bedroom and engaged in behaviors with her countless times, more than she could remember. It's a demon's thing, so she really couldn't help it. But with her new master, it's not like there was anything special in their relationship, since he was already in a relationship with other women. She had learned from books that men were rather possessive of the women they were in love with, but while he had shown a great amount of affection for her, it was not like he's in love with her or anything. In addition, while she cared very much for him and loved the attention he had for her, she could never view herself as his lover. She was his servant, and he was her master, nothing more, nothing less. But suddenly, Sayla frowned and became troubled about Ren showing his affection to another woman. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Right. After a few seconds, they separate from the kiss with them looking at each other with happy expressions. "Wow, I knew you liked me, but I didn't think it was that much," Ren said with a small grin while caressing her pretty black hair. "How could I not fall for you? You saved my life and have been helping me reunite with my sister ever since then," Kuroka said to him, a smile before planting her forehand onto his shoulders and arms wrapped around his body. "In the beginning, I only thought of you as a means to repopulate my race. But when I'm together with you, my heart beats in a joyful rhythm, and it's fun just to hang out with you and the others." She remembered the time she spent with Ren's family and friends while also enjoying herself in this world. "I only wanted children in the past, a powerful child. I just wanted strong genes. If no one in my world couldn't, then I'd choose you. But things are different now. If I'm together with you, then I feel at ease. When I see your smile, my heart becomes filled with love," she said, looking back up to him with a beautiful smile. "That makes sense. Just don't get jealous when I spend my time with the other girls," Ren said with a chuckling grin. It's fine. After all, I don't mind sharing you, just as long as we can stay together, Kuroka said, hugging him tightly. I can make that happen, Ren said, hugging her back before pulling away from each other. He then turned to Sayla and noticed something was bothering the demon girl despite her emotionless expression. Sayla, is something wrong? Sayla blanked in surprise when her master called to her before answering back to him in a calm manner. Oh, it's nothing, master, Sayla said while maintaining her stoic demeanor. There's no need to concern yourself for my well-being. She averted contact with him. However, Ren didn't see it that way and frowned a bit at how the Etherius downplayed herself without much concern for her own life. Despite being former enemies, Ren cares for Sayla but wishes that she would loosen up a little bit and start having more respect for herself. After getting kicked out of her old guild, the Etherius became very submissive towards him while carrying out every single word and order Ren tells her without a second thought. But truth be told, he wants her to experience a free life on her own and think for herself, not just something he orders her to do. The ranger then walked over to the Etherius and put his hand on top of Sayla's head, which made the demon slightly taken aback by her master's action, as she looked straight into his half-soft but serious gaze. Sayla, if there is something bothering you then tell me, okay? Ren spoke to her with a gentle tone. You're very important to me just like the other girls are, you know that, right? So don't ever say that life doesn't matter because it does to me. His question surprised her. It was just a few simple words meant to lift her spirits, but of all the words he could tell her, they were the least of her expectations. Why? She didn't understand. Her heart warmed up every time he did that. It brought a smile to her face without reason, making her feel butterflies in her stomach. Butterflies in her stomach. Sayla almost sniggered at herself for using a strange human definition. She had read about it in one of their boring books, and she had never truly understood the definition until now. Was it because she was in love with him, her master? The romantic novels she had read over the years had given her the answer, but she didn't trust any of them. She didn't like any of them, to begin with, but she had always forced herself to read them for two reasons, with the first being the limitation of the demon's library, as most of the books of demons had been made into Etherius, and the second being her love for reading, as she would read any book whether it was boring or not. She had so many feelings for her new master, respect, admiration, obeisance, but she didn't even know if love was one of them or could have the honor to call herself his lover since he already had multiple lovers. She didn't know if it was possible for an Etherius like her to develop something outside of how they were programmed. But whenever she was around him, she felt giddy and extremely happy. Sayla had always kept her demeanor in a calm mask. But whenever she was talking to him, she felt that mask slipping, and she started acting not that much different from a female human who was crazily in love with someone. Love had always been a strange definition for Sayla. They were close now, but was love a feeling that they could share mutually? Ren cared for her deeply, but was it his love for her? Or was it something else? Was it how he had always treated someone special to him? She must admit that she really didn't care if he was in love with her or not. But if she was truly in love with him, then so be it. But it still wouldn't make any difference to her position as his servant, right? For the second time of the day, she doubted herself. She almost sniggered at that. The cold and calculating Etherius was being confused by her own feelings. It was something one couldn't see every day. Of course, master, if that is what you wish of me, Sayla said, nodding her head, as the Etherius didn't realize that she was giving off a sincere, beautiful smile that real. And forgive me for making you worry, she said before bowing. It's cool, just don't forget that there are people here who are willing to help you if you need it, Ren said, removing his hand from her hand. So don't hesitate to speak your mind freely. Yes, master, Sayla replied back with a smiling blush. Kuroka smirked menacingly as she sees Sayla showing her softer side before speaking up. You should smile more often, Sayla. It'll make you much more likable with others. She mocked the demon woman, as Sayla's face was now devoid of any positive emotion, with her stoic and calm demeanor returning back to her. I could care less about what these humans think of me, as Master Ren's opinion is the only one that matters, Sayla stated to the Nekashu. True enough, Kuroka agreed with the demoness statement, as her gaze shifted to Ren. So about meeting these friends of yours, right? Now let's go see what they're up to before heading to class, Ren said, with Sayla and Kuroka following right behind them, as they made their way to the development studio. As they walked down the hallway, "Holo Tommy, I was thinking about something," with a troublesome look on his face, about old ranger villains showing up. It seems that they're making their move much more quickly than we've anticipated. I wish we had a little bit more time to prepare the rangers for this, but it seems that evil waits for no one. Holo Tommy thought in concern as the time to face him is finally near. He just hopes his students are ready to face the upcoming threats that will decide the fate of their world. High School DxD Universe, Grigori Headquarters morning. Back in the DxD universe, Azazel spends all night on his laptop going through the entire copy of the legendary Ranger database, watching the history of every single Ranger team and threats they've faced. To think those kids were a part of such an incredible legacy, Azazel said in complete awe after finishing watching the history of the Power Rangers. Azazel then leaned back in his chair before closing his eyes in deep thought. Seeing the records and entries in the legendary Ranger database made the man have so many questions in mind, especially regarding this so-called morphin grid that the Rangers had access to. Fighting multiple alien invasions, time travel mutants, an evil computer virus from another dimension that nearly wrapped humanity, another dimension where the dinosaurs never went extinct and lived with the humans, and so many other mind-blowing things that made the fallen angel interested to see in person. The technology was leagues ahead of his world, as the humans in the other world were able to accomplish space travel and other things that Azazel could even dream of in a million years. These Rangers were a gold mine among gold mines, as he never thought he would come across heroes like them. Sure, his world had its own famous heroes who managed to accomplish amazing things, but it didn't even come to close to what the Power Rangers have done, as they not only saved the world multiple times, but the entire universe. Not to mention that Midoriya and Ren came from a world where humans evolved to the point that they developed superpowers which surprised the Fallen even more, as these so-called quirks were like scared gears in a way. A certain thought then came to his mind, which caused the brown-haired man to laugh in amusement at how the rest of the supernatural world would react if they ever learned about this incredible discovery. Azazel stood up from his seat and grabbed the USB flash drive from his laptop before tossing it in the air and creating a spear of light in his hand, then swinging it into the flash drive that completely vaporized the device upon impact to leave no evidence behind, as was stated in their contact. "Okay, kids, time to hold up my end of the deal," Azazel said with a smile while making the spear of light in his hand vanish from sight. The Fallen then pulled his phone out of his pocket and immediately made a call to someone he trusted. "Hey, it's me. There's something I need you to look into for me. It's regarding the case with the black cat Kuroka," he said to the person on the phone, as he was going to keep the end of his deal with the Rangers. When the Rangers came back to this world, he has a feeling that they were going to change this world for both humans and supernatural beings. This is going to be fun, Azazel thought with a mad grin, as he was differently looking forward to the future with the Hero Force Rangers. My Hero Academia Universe, a high school hallway morning. Ren, Kuroka, and Sayla walked down the hallway on their way to the first year's support course classroom. Kuroka marveled as her orbs of gold flickered left and right, taking in her shouldering, while Sayla still having her stoic expression, as she didn't care much the humans' school but was on high alert if someone tries something. As they were passing by the students of UA, the two female ears twitched when catching a mutter of the people nearby. "Hey, isn't that quirkless guy from the sludge villain incident last year? I think you're right. And he's also a student at UA, too. Heard that he's the first quirkless person to ever be in the hero course. Is that for real? But he doesn't have a quirk. Who knows? Maybe it has something to do with that transformation of his." "You're right about that. I show him, and 3 others did the same thing at the entrance exam. Yeah, I and the other third-year students show it too. It's for freaking cool, especially that giant robot battle. But who are those girls with him?" They then started to notice Kuroka and Sayla walking beside him. "No idea. Friends, maybe. But one of them is wearing our school's uniform. They're really beautiful as well, especially the one with a cat-like quirk. Nah man, the one with the horns is clearly the more attractive one of the two." "Yeah, I agree. That cold-hardened expression makes her even more gorgeous." "You're joking, right? The girl with the cat is way hotter. I mean, look at how she dressed. That's what you would be focused on, you perv. But look at their figures. I've killed to have a body like theirs," muttering similar to those who followed them as they made their way throughout the building. But it was amusing to the Ranger how everyone make a comment on Kuroka's feline and Sayla's demonic traits despite them not having a quirk, as the Black Nekishu didn't seem bothered by the comments, with her not hiding who she was from others, as she just smiled in response, while the Etherius didn't share the same feelings as her companion, with her glaring at the human around her, especially the one that was particularly drooling at her body. Nevertheless, Ren just ignored the comments from the other students because they were just harmless and didn't matter to him. But then the boy's attention was forced into something else when he noticed a rose-haired girl and a boy with vampire fangs approaching in front of him, making the trio stop to see what they wanted. Kuroka raised an eyebrow while tilting her head slightly to the side and giving a quiet cat meow at the 2 teens in front of Ren, as Sayla's eyes squinted at the humans in suspicion and were watching them cautiously if they tried anything funny. Ren looked at the 2 students in confusion before speaking to them. Can I help you?" He didn't get the chance to ask with the girl interrupting. "You're the quirkless guy, right? The one who can change into that colorful costume?" The rose-haired girl asked with a bit of hopefulness in her voice. "Yeah, that be me," Ren said with a slightly uncomfortable tone. "You're so cool," the girl shouted in excitement. "Huh?" Ren said with a confused expression on his face. "Day," the fanged boy said while grinning. "The way you just jumped in to save those two guys from that villain even the pros couldn't beat, and turning yourself into that red suit was so cool. It's no wonder you got into UA without a quirk." He balled his hands up as his eyes grew bright. "Not to mention what you did at the entrance exam," the rose-haired girl added while stepping closer to the ranger in admiration. "We saw you and 3 other students transforming into their own outfits and giving them incredible powers," she said, surprising him. "Oh, you saw that, huh? Thanks for saying that to me and I really appreciate it. But I need to be going now," Ren said when more people started to surround him faster than he could anticipate. "Hey man, I just wanna say good luck on being a hero," a second year with a square nose said, patting the ranger on the back. "I know you can do it even without a quirk." "Oh, thanks," Ren said as he was interrupted again. "I saw how you summon a giant transforming robot to beat that 0-pointer. A girl with bee wings and a stinger interrupted sparkles in her eyes. "Those things were built for no one to beat. But yet, you weren't afraid of taking it on single-handedly with that golden lobster robot of yours and won." "It's really nothing." Ren didn't get the chance to speak up with more people hounding him with questions and praise, while Kuroka and Sayla were right behind as everyone was focused on him. It was still a bit surprising that everybody remembered the sludge villain incident, and that his reputation as the first quirkless person to be a hero was improving, with everyone starting to care less about his quirkless. But it felt a bit good for Ren that everyone started seeing the boy for more than being born powerless. "It looks like Ren is quite the celebrity here, Naya," Kuroka said with a mischievous smirk while also laughing a bit in her hand, but was also happy for him after learning about how bad people in this world treated the quirkless like him. "He truly is an incredible guy," she said fondly looking at her mate with a soft gaze. Sayla don't respond to what the Nekishu said as she had a cold look in her eyes while glaring hostilely at the humans who were bothering her master. But he didn't deny her last comment about him being incredible. "Hi, there he is." Everyone then heard a female voice shout towards them, before turning to see a girl, probably a 2nd or 3rd year student, approaching their way. She was a fair-skinned girl of average height with wide, curious eyes. Her upper eyelashes are long and thick, and her irises are a royal blue. Her hair is periwinkle, and it reaches all the way down to her knees, twisting around itself at her waist and curving inwards around her legs. She has side-swept bangs, tucked behind her ears on the right and hanging just over her eyes on the left, and 2 short clumps of hair on either side of her face, curved towards her face on the right and behind it, under her ear, on the left. Her name is Nejire Hado, also known as Nejire-chan. "It's Nejire Hado from the UA's Big 3, a student shouted out loud with everyone gasping in surprise to see one of the school's big shots running over to them, before moving out the way of the royal blue-haired girl's path. "The Big 3, Holo," Tommy thought with interest as he knew actually who they were from UA. "Servers, the strongest students in the whole school who are closest to becoming the next top 10 heroes in all of Japan. He wonders if any of them could have the potential to become Power Rangers." "Ooh, hey, are you that quirkless boy everyone been talking about?" Nejire asked as she ran over to where he was. Her blue eyes were sparkling with curiosity, and a bright smile on her face. "Oh, hi there," Ren said, completely confused by what just happened as he was a bit put off by the hyperactive cheerful ball of sunshine that was Nejire, with the girl standing in front of him with a big smile on her face. "Now this is getting interesting, Naya," Kuroka said with a smirk at how things were getting pretty interesting at the moment. "Geez, Nejire, don't just run off when you see something interesting," another female voice exclaimed loudly for everyone to turn and see more people coming towards them. One was a tall young man with rather pale skin. His ears are longer than most, their tips pointy and somewhat elf-like. He has messy, indigo hair, which sticks out behind his head, and thin, tired-looking eyes, partially covered by his bangs despite the fact that they're supposed to be split so as to not impair his vision. His shoulders are usually hunched, and he avoids making eye contact with people. His name is Tamaki Amajiki, also known by his hero named Sun Eater. Another one was a tall young man with a very muscular build who possesses a number of noticeable scars around his lower arms. Mirio's design is very unique due to his blue oval-shaped eyes, drawn in a simplistic style with no visible sclere, and nose which is prominently rounder than most others. He has blonde hair, the top part of which is arranged in a cowlick, while the bottom section is worn swept backward. His name is Mirio Tagata, also known as Lemillion. The last one has short, cropped hair that has been dyed salmon-colored, and reddish-brown eyes with long lower eyelashes. She also has several piercings in her ears, all with gray studs. Her name is Yuuhaya. Well, the other members of the big three are here too. One of the people around Ren said, their bug eyes bugging out. The big three, Sayla said with narrow eyes, as she could tell that they were pretty strong for a couple of humans. And so is Yuyu, another student pointed out as well. Of course, they'd be interested in talking to him. We should get out of their way, someone said as the group of people dispersed quickly, leaving Ren, Sayla, Kuroka, and Nejire together in the hallway with Mirio, Tamaki, and Yuyu catching up to their female friend. Jumping the gun again like always, Nejire, Mirio said with a hearty laugh. Please stop doing that, Nejire, Tamaki muttered quietly in a low tone as he was a little out of breath. I hate running. Nejire, how many times have I told you about running off on your own? Yuyu chastised her friend while placing her hands on her hips. But Yuyu, I can't help it. I wanted to meet him for a long time now, and since he's at UA, I can finally get some answers. Nejire questioned her friend excitedly. Hello, Ren awkwardly greeted the four slightly older kids as he got their attention. Thanks for dealing with crowd control earlier. It was getting kinda hard to breathe. Hi, my name's Hato Nejire, a third year from class 3 and one of the big three. What's yours? Nejire asked with her smile widening as she got right into his personal space. I'm Ren Amamiya, first year, class 1 and leader of the Power Rangers Hero Force, Ren said slightly nervously while leaning back with how close she was getting to him. Nejire's eyes gleamed enthusiastically with a big smile on her face. Power Rangers, is that what you call yourself when you transform? She said, leaning over to stare him in the eyes. Their noses were almost touching, as she was oblivious to the fact that her boobs were pressed against his chest, and started to pat Ren on the head, shoulders, and back. Whoa, too close. Ren thought, flustered at how forward this girl was acting towards him and with her pressing herself against the ranger. Isn't she even aware of the position we're in right now? How do you do it without a quirk? Is this thing on your arm related to that transformation? How does it work? What else can it do? Nejire kept on talking, holding up the boy's left arm closer to herself as she noticed the master morpher on his wrist. You think I can get one of these things? What about that giant golden lobster robot you summoned? How did you make it transform like that? Do you think I can pilot it too? Can you teach me to pilot one? Oh, I forgot that there were 3 other people at the exam who could change into their own outfits. They were so awesome and cool looking. Are they a part of your team? What are their quirks? Can I meet them sometimes? When can you tell me about the more Power Rangers stuff? Please, pretty please. I'm super curious. The third year smiled brightly as she asked question after question. Ren stood there blinking at her overwhelming questions and the fact that Nejire's breasts were pressed against his chest, while his brain was trying to process all of her questions. Neahaha, I like this girl. She's so much fun to be around. Kuroka laughed at how Nejire was behaving around Ren and making him flustered to her amusement. But Sayla looked like she was ready to explode with a killing aura pointing toward Nejire as she eyed the human girl coldly. But she was oblivious to it as the other 3 third years noticed it. I'll kill this annoying human, Sayla muttered as she was being held back by Kuroka, who had a sold grip on her shoulders. Let me go, cat. She slightly hissed at the black Nekashu. Kuroka shook her head with a calm smile and closed her eyes. Not in public, Sayla. You don't want to disappoint Ren now, do you? She said, preventing the demon woman from doing something dramatic. But even if she didn't show it, the black Nekashu was starting to get a little worried about how close Nejire was getting to her man. Although she had got 30 seconds to let him go or else, her eye was twitching with annoyance. She may love teasing Ren to get his affection, but when another woman does it she gets extremely territorial like a cat. Mirio groaned at his friend's curiosity getting the better of her again. Nejire, you're standing too close to him, he said, trying to help the poor guy out. When Nejire was excited about something she would forget about personal space and manners. He could see Kuroka and Sayla nearly by them and noticed the latter was staring angrily at Nejire like she was ready to attack her. Yuyo, Tamaki said, looking over at the red-haired girl, as she was the only person that was able to rein Nejire in when she gets like this. Tamaki knew from experience that this was going to get out of hand very quickly. He took a step behind Mirio and hoped the powder keg didn't explode. Luckily for him, Yu was already on the case before diffusing the situation before the Etherius does something dramatic to her friend. Nejier, you have to give him time to answer before you ask another question. Yu reminded the bouncy brunette, making Nejier blink for a moment before looking at Ren expectantly. The short red-haired sighed in exhaustion before looking at the quirkless boy with an apology look. Sorry about her. Nejier tends to get carried away at times when something interesting catches her attention. Don't worry about it. I have a friend who is kind of similar to her when something piques his interest, Ren said, brushing it off like it wasn't a big deal, while also regaining his composure. So who are you guys and how do you know so much about what happened at the exam? Hahaha, that's right. You're just a first year, right? I'm Mirio Tagada, Mirio said with a laugh that reminded the ranger of All Might a bit. We're third year students like Nejier. And to answer your second question, the UA teacher lets us second and third year students watch the entrance exam to ever want to. It's a pleasure to meet you. He held out his hand towards the ranger, who grabbed it in return. Likewise, Mirio, Ren said, shaking the boy's hand before releasing it. He didn't think that the school would let their students watch the exam, which means everyone in UA is already aware of him and the other rangers. You got a strong grab on you there. I can tell that you're a pretty strong guy, Mirio said in an impressive tone. Hope we can have the chance to spar with one another. Sure, but don't expect me to go easy on you, Ren said, flashing the blonde a cocky grin, making the boy laugh. You're a real funny guy, Mirio said, patting the boy's back, then pointed his finger at the black-haired boy who was planting his face against a wall. And that guy over there is my best friend, Tamaki Amajiki, he said, getting his friend's attention as the boy turned his head in their direction. Hi, Tamaki said quietly, making a face that looked like an attempt to smile, but instead came off as a frightening grimace. Ren raised an eyebrow at this before looking back at Mirio. Is he okay? Ren asked before getting an answer. Yeah, he's fine. Just doesn't have a lot of self-confidence in himself, Mirio said to him as the blonde patted his friend's back. Come on dude, you gotta learn to open up more to other people, or else you'll never make it as a pro someday. He encouraged him a bit. Your optimistic personality isn't helping, Mirio, Tamaki said in embarrassment while trying to hide his face, while Mirio was laughing with his arm on his friend's shoulder. Those two are like day and night, with Mirio the former and Tamaki the latter, Ren thought before turning his gaze to the two other third-year girls. I never got your name yet. He addressed the redhead girl. Oh right, sorry. I'm Yuhaya, I'm Nejir's friend. It's nice to meet you. Yu introduced herself to him with a smile. No, Yu, you're my best friend. Remember, Nejir smiled brightly as she pulled the other girl into a hug. Yu smiled as she returned the hug. Best friends, I won't forget, she promised with a grin. She's definitely a free-spirited person, Ren commented with a smile. I take it that this little meeting of ours wasn't by chance, he said to them. We just wanted to know a bit more about you, that's all, Mirio explained to him. So is it true that you're quirkless? I've heard around from people about that, he asked with the others paying attention. It is, Ren replied with a blank tone and neural expression. I plan on being the first quirkless hero in the world and show everyone that being born without a power doesn't define who you are, he said with seriousness in his voice. I see, Mirio said with a hand on his chin, before breaking out into laughter again. I think I like you. You're going to make for an interesting hero, Ren. Ren was then taken aback by the response. You don't care that I'm quirkless? He stared blankly at the blonde boy. Of not dude. You managed to get into the hero course without a quirk. That's pretty amazing in my book. Mirio grinned, Tamaki nodding along with him. You're already a hero in most people books after what you did last year, so a lot of people look up to you now, Tamaki said with tiny smile. Yeah, and it's totally awesome, Nejir cried out, releasing her friend and looking at Ren with a big grin. That makes you more of a hero than anyone else in the whole school. We don't really care about that whole quirkless is powerless thing, Yu said to him with a smile. The fact is that you earned your positions here, just like anyone else. Ren looked at them with a stunned expression, as he was still not used to people who were okay with him being quirkless. Back in his old school, when everyone learned he was quirkless, they just pushed him aside like an afterthought. But things were different in UA, as the people were willing to accept him regardless of whether he was quirkless and treat him like a person. Unbeknownst to Ren, the Master Morpher slightly glowed gold, blue, and silver as the big three were chosen to be Power Rangers. 3 people this time around, and it's the big 3 no less. Holo Tommy thought with a smile at who was chosen to be Rangers this time. Huh, I see, Ren said in a calm manner, before feeling a pair of arms wrapping around his neck and sometimes very soft but familiar on his back. Kuroka, he said, noticing her. Well, isn't this fun? Kuroka said as she begins to purr in Ren's ear before giving his earlobe a small bite. It kinda means that you would leave us on of it, Ren, Naya, she said, giving a seductive smile before letting go of him. Wouldn't you again, Sayla? Her two tails swished around behind her. Don't go dragging me into your nonsense. I'm not as childish as you stupid cat, Sayla said harshly while walking up next to them, with Kuroka stuck out her tongue towards the demon as she didn't like what she seemed to be implying. The childish gesture was of course ignored as the Aetherius simply rolled her eyes with Mirio, Tamaki, Nejire, and Yuyu's eyes laying on the two women in curiosity and interest. One is an exceptionally beautiful young woman with dark purple, almost black hair, matching color eyes with a white band that separated the front of her hair, framing her bangs from her hair below the band with a tattoo on her forehead and two large gold-looking horns protruding from the sides of her head and pointing upwards. Her body was voluptuous, with curves at all the right places and breasts that were even bigger than the other woman. She was wearing a female UA uniform with a white-colored strap that tied around her neck, and thigh-high socks that revealed her heels and toes as she was barefooted. There was another beautiful woman with long raven-colored hair with split bangs held in place with a hairband that framed her face, accompanied by exotic orbs reminiscent of shining ambers that held slitted pupils within them, as she had feline ears atop her hand and two black tails swishing behind her. Her outfit was a simple black kimono which was rather revealing, showing off parts of her slender and pale legs, and a pair of black Japanese strapped sandals. It left her shoulders bare and her cleavage, enormous as they were on the verge of slipping out. The 4 third years didn't say it out loud, but they were probably two of the most beautiful women they'd ever seen. Mirio looked at them with a smile of interest and thought they were unique. Tamaki have a blush on his face from embarrassment and shyness as eyes were down on the floor, Nejire staring at them in awe and wonder as she wanted to know more about them, and Yuyu raising an eyebrow at the two women as they seem out of place, especially with their mature figures. The question about who they were and why they were with someone like Ren features would be impossible to hide. Meanwhile, Sayla noticed the looks from the 4 humans and gave the humans a hateful gaze as the third-year students flinched when the Aetherius woman turned her head to glare at them with those emotionless eyes, which remind them of the time when they faced very dangerous villain during their time in the field of hero work, with them being weary of her. "And who are you? What business do you have with my master?" Sayla asked in a menacing tone while looking at them suspiciously, making the third-year students' eyes widen at the way the demon was addressed. "Ren." Master," Tamaki said, almost immediately shrank away from her with a dark cloud seemingly hovering over him as he avoided the woman's cold gaze. The poor kid looked like he was ready to curl into a fetal position. "What does she mean by that?" Nejire cautiously asked, with the Aetherius gaze at her silently, causing her to back away a little, and held her best friend's hand. "I don't think we want to know," Yuyu muttered back to her friend in a low frightened tone, as she grabbed her friend's hand tightly. "How can anyone have eyes as scary as that?" Mirio thought with a cold sweat around his neck from how the demon was looking at them, as it had been a long time since anyone made him feel this scared. As the 4 students were freaked out by Sayla's gaze, Ren couldn't help but sigh. Over the years of spending with Tartarus, Sayla had developed a deep hatred for humans, with the exception of some. Ren told her to be nice to them when he introduced her to others in UA, but clearly she wasn't taking his words to her heart. This is another good point in his opinion, but also a rather bad point. "Sayla, that's enough," Ren said, making the Aetherius stop her glaring, as she turned his way. "If you're going to be a student here, then you need to learn to be nice to others," he said to her. "Of course, Master Ren. Please forgive me." Sayla apologized before bowing to him. "You really need to loosen up, Sayla," Hiroka commented with a bit of disappointment in her tone. "I didn't know you had a servant." Nejire was confused, really confused. "Please don't ask. It's kind of a long, complicated topic that I don't want to get into, so don't read too much into when she calls me that," Ren said with a tired face. "If you say so," Tamaki said, as he could tell by the boy's expression that it was something he didn't want to talk about. "So anyway, Ren, who are your friends?" Mirio inquired of the spiky-haired boy as they seemed to be close to him. Before the boy could say anything, Kuroka made the first move by moving in front of him as she introduced herself to them. "And Kuroka, Naya." The Ravenet introduced herself with almost a bow and forced her to support her kimono that almost threatening to expose one of her breasts, which jiggled with the movement. The third year idly took note of the interesting verbal tick she had, which seemed rather fitting. She then did something unexpected that made their eyes widen in surprise as Kuroka wrapped her arms around Ren's neck from behind and pressed her lips against his cheek. "And I'm Ren's girlfriend, Naya." This made Mirio, Tamaki, and Yuyu slightly blush from the physical effect their underclassmen were getting from the attractive woman, while Nejire squealed in excitement with her eyes sparkling from learning about their relationship. as they immediately gazed towards the ranger, who simply nodded in confirmation as he turned to her and wrapped her in his arms. "Indeed you are," Ren said, lightly scratching the base of her ears that caused a rumbling noise to rise up from her throat. "But what did I tell you about doing this in front of others? Don't care. Let them look. Makes it more fun," Kuroka said with a laugh, making Ren roll his eyes at her shameful behavior. Then their gazes fell upon Sayla, who was quietly watching their conversation, and noticed that they were expecting her to introduce herself to them. She normally wouldn't do something like introducing herself to a couple of humans, but Ren let out a sigh as he walked up to the she-demon and lightly tapped her on the shoulder, catching her attention. "Don't worry about it too much. Just introduce yourself to them." Ren spoke in a reassuring manner, so she could feel more comfortable speaking instead of suspecting the third years like a danger hazard. "Sayla," the she-demon reluctantly spoke after feeling everyone's gazes soften for her sake. Although this didn't stop her from turning to Ren and staring at him with her usual stoic face afterward. Ren just chuckled awkwardly at Sayla because he could see her annoyance and embarrassment in her eyes despite hiding it so well, with Kuroka slightly giggling behind her sleeve at her Etheria's companion's embarrassing moment. "Baby steps, Ren. Baby steps," Ren thought, as it was going to take a while for the demoness to warm up to others, before turning his attention to the upperclassmen. "Sorry about her. She's not what you call a people person," he said in the Etheria's defense. "So hey Mirio, what did they mean when they said the big three?" he asked the blonde boy. "Oh, it's a title that UA give to the most promising hero course students," Mirio explained with enthusiasm. "Me, Tamaki, and Nejire are constantly the best out of our year's hero course." "The best, you say?" Ren said as he stared at the third year. As Mirio laughed nonstop like All Might, Tamaki sulked and shifted his gaze away. Nejire, who had a big proud smile on her face and was shifting her weight from her heels to her toes back and forth. Then he looked at Yu before saying something to her. "What about you, Yu?" he asked the redhead girl. "No way," Yu said, waving her hand from side to side. "While I may be pretty good at using my quirk, I'm still nowhere near these 3 levels," she admitted to him. Hey Ren, you still haven't answered any of my questions about this Power Rangers stuff," Nejire said with her usual bubbly attitude while getting up close to him again. "I really want to know, Nejire. I don't think he can answer your questions with how much you were up in his face." Yu scolded her friend with a sigh. "Sure Nejire, I'll be happy to answer all of your questions," Ren said, getting their attention on him, before holding up his left arm. "This device on my left wrist is called a morpher. It lets me turn into a Power Ranger and has many different functions that I can go into detail with you later on. To get a morpher you have to be selected by one, since morphers choose their wielders." He lowered his arm before going back to explanation. "That giant robot you saw was called the Claw Zord and made it transform into the Claw Battle Zord, which can change into other forms. As for piloting one of our Zord, I'll have to think about it since we only use them for emergencies only. But I might make an exception for you. The other Rangers were my friends and trusted teammates who were also chosen to be Rangers. I'm also happy to introduce them to you so you can ask them about their quirks and other stuff. And if you want to know more about the Power Rangers, I can show you a history video from the Legendary Ranger database later after school," he replied, looking her in the eyes as he answered each of Nejire's questions. This made everyone blink quietly in surprise at how the quirkless boy was able to answer all of Nejire's questions without even batting an eye. "How did you do that?" Tamaki asked in awe of Ren. He answered every question and from what she could tell was in the right order. "I haven't seen anyone answer any of her questions like that before. Let's just say I have a friend who is similar to Nejire when it came to asking a whole bunch of questions," Ren said with a grin of confidence on his face. After being around Midoriya so much, he learned to handle people like that pretty easily. "Wow, that is impressive," Mirio said, looking at Nejire, and winced. Oh no, he could tell she was getting really excited. This was not a good sign. Yu looked at Nejire's face and could tell her eyes were starting to shine. "Oh," she said, alright, knowing what was going to happen next. "Nejire, don't you dare," she warned her friend. Kuroka and Sayla also saw the look on Nejire's face, with the former eyes widening as she read the situation and prepared to jump to save her boyfriend, and the latter having a confused look on her face as she didn't understand the situation, but had a bad feeling about it. Nejire squealed with delight as she quickly grabbed Ren by his head and pulled his face into her massive bust. With the quirkless boy both shocked and confused by the unexpected move from the beautiful third year. "Mind," Nejire called out, holding him in place. "He is my squishy now," she said, swinging him back and forth. She kept him tight against her chest. Ren was flailing his arm wildly, trying to escape, but to no avail. "What the hell is going on right now?" he thought as he struggled to escape from Nejire's chest. That tears it. Kuroka hissed loudly and lunged across toward her boyfriend. She barely missed him as Nejire quickly spun away. Let him go. She scrambled back to her feet to give chase. Mine, Nejire replied using her spirals to hover away as she chatted away to the trapped Ren. My squishy now. Nejire, let the poor guy go please, Tamaki said, making his fingers turn into red octopus tentacles to try and stop her. But Nejire evaded him with ease. Nejire Hado, you will put him down right this instant. Yuyu shouted at her, as she didn't want to use her quirk to hurt either one of them. Don't want to, Yuyu, Nejire said, dodging another attempt from Kuroka and Tamaki. I'm gonna keep him, she declared before spiraling around in the air to avoid more attempts to catch her. You will be handing him over, Kuroka said, glaring at Nejire before creating a magical circle on the floor with it shooting out many large, glowing white chains that the girl attempted to catch her. But Nejire darted away, evading each one of the chains with agile aerial movements thanks to her quirk. Damn, she was able to dodge the magic chains of Gleipnir. Ugh, how hard is it to catch one blue hair girl, she complained in frustration before her magic circle and chains vanished. Mirio was trying to corral his friend, but he was unable to use his quirk without losing his clothes, and he did not want a repeat of last year's sports festival. Nejire, you have to put him down. This is getting out of hand. He tried to reason with her, but she just continued to float around, evading the magical chains. No, my squishy, Nejire said, flying up to evade more of their attempts to grab him and her. Squishy has fluffy hair. Then out of nowhere, while avoiding the others' attempts to catch her, Nejire completely froze in midair as if her body stopped listening to her. What in the world? Why can't I move all of a sudden? Nejire asked in a confused and surprised tone. Drop my master this instant, you filthy human, someone ordered coldly, making Nejire release her hold on Ren against her will, with him falling to the floor on his back. This made the others stop in place to turn to the voice and saw it was Sayla using her macro curse on Nejire to quell her nonsense while also freeing her master from the human's grasp. My squishy, Nejire shouted in horror before her body moved on its own again and was smashed into the floor hard. Oh, that hurts, she cried out with Yuyu rushing over to her. She let him go. Tamaki blinked in surprise at the development. Yeah, it might have something to do with that girl's quirk, Mirio said, looking over at the Eutherius and wondering what her power was. Man, she has a scary look. Ren raised himself up from the floor in a sitting position while gasping for air as Kuroka rushed to his side to check on him. Ren, are you okay? Kuroka asked and got to her knees as she proceeded to see if he was hurt. Yeah, Ren took another deep breath. I'll be okay, just grateful to be able to breathe again, he said, standing back up and looking at Sayla, glaring dangerously at Nejire, who was still under the effects of her macro curse. Thanks, Sayla, you can let go of her now, he told her. Very well, master, Sayla said, removing her macro curse on the girl, which surprised the third-year student. Hey, I can move again on my own, Nejire said joyfully while hopping back onto her feet, as she was confused and curious about what just happened to her. Nejire, you can't do that to people, Yuyu shouted at her with a furious gaze. But, Yuyu, he answered all my questions, Nejire said, quickly pointing at him. He's my squishy now. While that is impressive, Nejire, Yuyu just gave her best friend with a stern gaze. If you continue to behave like this, I will withhold cuddles, she said, crossing her arms and waiting for Nejire to decide. No, Nejire exclaimed dramatically. She then immediately dropped to her knees to beg. Please, not the cuddles. She started to pout. I'll be good. I promise, Yuyu. We'll see, Yuyu said, still glaring at her best friend. We'll talk about it after school today. How did she get Nejire to behave just like that? Ren asked out of curiosity. Oh, that's easy, Mirio said, walking over to them. Those two have been friends for such a long time that Yuyu knows all the ways of dealing with Nejire when she gets out of hand, he explained to them. You don't say, Kuroka replied back to him. Speaking of Nejire, how did Sayla get her to drop you like that? And what was with that purple circle thing on the ground Kuroka made? Does it has something to do with their quirks? Mirio asked him in curiosity. Yeah, something like that, Ren said, as it wasn't a complete lie but a half-truth to hide their true identities. I would like to talk about it more, but we need to get going to do something before class starts, he said to the boy. Oh, okay then. It was nice to meet you all, Mirio said, giving him a slap on the back. Good luck with your goal of being a quirkless hero, he said, with Tamaki, Nejire, and Yuyu right next to him now. See ya, Ren, Yuyu said to him, with Tamaki quietly nodding goodbye. Thanks, and you guys have a good day as well, Ren said, leaving for the first-year support course classroom with Kuroka and Sailor right behind him. Bye-bye for now, my squishy, Nezu shouted while waving him off. Let's talk again real soon and hang out together. Hopefully not too soon, Ren said under his breath as Kuroka hopped onto his back, with him quickly catching her tights as her arms quickly found themselves around his neck as he got a good grip on her thighs. Damn it, Kuroka. What now? I want a ride, Kuroka said with a playful smirk, as the Nekishu let her chin rest on his shoulder. Cozy, NYA she lets out a purr of pleasure, enjoying the piggyback ride. You have 2 legs of your own cat. Now get off of him right now, Sayla said to the Yaokai with a side glare. No, don't wanna, Kuroka said, sticking out her tongue at the demon. Kuroka, what did we say about you and wearing your clothes properly? Ren said as he glanced up at the Nekishu, as he pretty much didn't care about carrying her on his back anymore. I know what you said, Kuroka purred in response. But, like most advice from Hughes, I ignored it. You could at least wear something like a bra, Ren said back at her. Why would I? Kuroka tilted her head to the side. I don't need to with my senjutsu and yaojutsu. Also, that way we save money, Naya, Kuroka said, throwing her twisted logic at her mate. Ren let out a long, painful sigh at his new girlfriend's behavior and just wished for the day to be over with already. Should have left her at home, master, Sayla bluntly out loud. Kuroka hummed in curiosity. Meanwhile, back with the third-year students. Well, they seemed like a fun bunch to be around, Mirio said with a chuckle. Yeah, especially Kuroka, but I can do with the whole flirting and teasing, Yu said, shaking her head at the black Nekishu's behavior. It's still amazing to me how she can walk around wearing loose clothes like that, she said with a tiny blush on her face at how bold the Nekishu was at showing off her incredible body of hers without any shame. She kinda reminded you of Miss Midnight a bit, don't you think? Mirio pointed at how the 2 women are similar to one another. But that girl with the horns was really scary, Tamaki said as he was still trembling from the demon's cold gaze. She's reminds me a bit of villain. No kidding. It's a good thing she wants to be a hero instead villain with a quirk like hers, Yu said, shuddering at the thought of facing someone like that in a fight. But these Power Rangers sound like pretty awesome first years, Mirio said with an upbeat smile. Can't wait to meet the rest of them in the future. Let's hope they're not too much of a handful, Tamaki said with a sigh. Nezu was surprisingly quiet the whole conversation, as she watched Ren, Sayla, and Kuroka depart down the hallway together. I wonder if I can get in on that, Nezu asked as she sees both Kuroka hugging Ren's arm and Sayla staring at him with interest. He actually looks pretty studly up close in person, she thought with a light blush about her squishy and smirked a bit. She was definitely going to learn more about him. UA, high school classroom 1H morning. After saying goodbye to the third-year student, the trio began making their way to their destination, with Kuroka still riding on Ren's back and Sayla walking right next to him. Kuroka was enjoying her method of travel. It was comfortable and she even closed her eyes at the sensation of the wind that ruffled her hair. Once they reached their destination, the boy lightly patted Kuroka's thigh, making her avert her gaze from the tall gate and wall, and down at the blonde carrying her. Naya, you mind getting down? We've arrived, Ren informed her. The ears on top of her head twitched and she looked at him like he just told her something strange. But, why Naya? I'm comfortable right here. Kuroka moved her hands down from around his neck to his chest and rubbed them up and down. Rolling his eyes, Ren let go of the woman on his back with Kuroka standing on her own 2 feet, and ignored her pouting as he looked ahead in front of him. Eventually, the 3 arrived at the thick, reinforced steel door of the support course's classroom. They stopped a few feet away from the classroom. This is it, the development studio where students who signed up for the support course, our robotic friends, should be inside. Holo Tommy thought as Ren made his way to the front door. Sayla glanced briefly at a metal door before she noticed something amiss coming out of the door that spelled danger, as the she-demon gently tugged on Ren's uniform jacket sleeve to stop him in place. What's up, Sayla? Ren asked the Etherius when she just pointed at the door to the development studio. Ren and Kuroka turned their gaze toward the direction Sayla was pointing at the large steel door to the support lab that was down this hall a few feet away from them. Strange vibrations rumbled from the lab and the 3 stared at the door as streams of smoke wafted from it. Then a panicked voice shouted from behind. Hatsum, no. I said no. Power loader voice that Ren couldn't tell if it was terrified or angry boomed out of the room. It's gonna blow. Another familiar voice Ren could tell shouted in a panicked tone. Everyone hit the deck. Navi's voice screamed out loud in a scared tone. What the? Ren said as he, Kuroka, and Sayla were almost blown off their feet as the door burst open, torn off its hinges by an earth-shaking explosion. Holy hell, he shouted in surprise as they jumped back a bit from the blast in time. NYA. What was that? Hiroka asked, very startled matter as she didn't expect that to happen. Sayla narrowed her eyes in a defense matter and prepared herself for whatever the threat was to protect her master. Thick clouds of smoke fumed from inside, but their eyes latched onto the tangle of limbs splayed out on the floor in front of them. When the smoke started to clear a little, the trio saw a student on the floor. She is a reasonably short girl with quite a mature build. She has salmon pink hair, which is generally shoulder length, although it does vary, which is styled into thick dreadlocks and side swept to her right. Her eyes are wide and sloped upwards with some notably long upper eyelashes, their irises green-yellow with a cross in the center, making them look somewhat like scope lenses. She is wearing a plain black tank top with workshop coveralls tied casually around her waist, with the same goggles on her head. Her name is Mei Hatsum. Now what do we have here? Holo Tommy thought as he and the others heard a light groan coming from the girl on the floor. Mei was currently lying straight in the mind of the hallway floor, a little bit dizzy after being caught up in that explosion. Ren decided to help the poor girl out and walked up to her. Hey, you okay there? Ren asked, kneeling down to help her up by grabbing a hold of her left arm. Yeah, I'm alright, Mei said, coughing a bit with her eyes closed while regaining her footing thanks to Ren's assistance. Thanks for that, whoever you are. Dang it, Hatsum. It's too early in the morning for this. Couldn't you at least save the explosions until after I've had my morning coffee? Power Loader complained while walking out through the smoke cloud with an irritated look on his face. Didn't I tell you to be careful? He waved his hands around to push away the smoke. You did, Power Loader, but I promise nothing, Mei said cheerfully before opening up her eyes with a bright smile. But her eyes locked onto the person standing next to her, as she gasped and had a stunned expression while looking at Ren. Ren noticed this and looked back at the girl in confusion. What? He asked with a raised brow. Mei's expression then morphed into feral delight. It's you, she shouted while pointing at him. Me? Ren asked, taking a step back in both confusion and surprise from her unexpected outburst. Yeah, you, Mei said while latching onto Ren's wrist and yanked him to his feet, much to the boy's surprise. He stiffened when she wrapped her arms around him and squeezed the life out of him. I was wondering how long it would take before you visited me. Mama has been really worried. Hatsum Power Loader facepalmed as Sayla and Kuroka looked at the scene with weird expressions. Because you haven't visited us once since the first day of class, Mei said to him with a grin. Hatsum Power Loader raised his voice a little. Mama will be so happy you're okay, and I Mei said, irritating her teacher, as she was too focused on the ranger. Hatsum Power Loader groaned out loud enough to get the girl's attention as she whipped her head towards him. Let the boy breathe, please. Oh, right, Mei said, letting him go, as Ren gasped for air after her crushing weight disappeared. Anyways, you all right? Power Loader asked. Yeah, I'm good, Ren said, regaining his breath. Oi, Hatsum, apologize to him, Power Loader told her. Yes, I'm sorry for almost crushing you to death, the pink-haired girl began muttering just like Midoriya does. Power Loader just sighs in response. That kid is gonna put me in an early grave, he said out loud to himself. Hiroka watched the chaos unfold in front of her and looked at his Sayla. You know, I thought that school was supposed to be normal, but it turns out to be pretty crazy and fun. Just how I like it. She had a beaming expression of excitement on her face. Sayla just sighed as she paid her no mind with more of the smoke from the explosion starting to clear away. Now that the smoke was gone, they were able to get a good look into the classroom to find a room that looked more like the combination of a shop class with a few familiar sights that made the ranger crack a smile. What's with that crazy girl and her inventions always blowing up? Navi complained while flying out of the room. Why didn't you check her work this time? We did, but it seems that a circuit must have malfunctioned, Alpha 5 said to the bird. I'll give points for her creatively, but she needs to check over her work before using them, Solon said to them. Alpha, Navi, Solon, Ren said, running up to them. It's great to see you guys here at UA. It's Ren, Alpha 5 said in a joyful tone while walking up to him. Navi said, quickly flying around before stooping next to his right side. I'm happy to see you all healed up after your last mission. And a good morning to you, Solon said, giving him a quick hug. Having a good day, my boy. Some as usual, Ren said with a smile while shrugging his shoulders. Hey, where Redbot, Tensu, and Circuit? He asked, not seeing them here. They're somewhere around the school working on a few side projects for the future, Solon explained to him before noticing the two women behind him. So who are your two lovely friends? She asked. Oh, this Kuroka and Sayla, Ren said, pointing a thumb at them, with Sayla nodding her head in response and Kuroka waving with a friendly smile. They are new friends of mine that I made during my travels, he said, knowing what he meant. Any friend of the Power Rangers is a friend of mine, Alpha 5 said, walking up to them. It's nice to meet you both. I'm Alpha 5. He held out his hand to them. It's a pleasure to meet you as well, Alpha, Kuroka said to him and gave a handshake to the robot. Likewise, Sayla said with a bow out of respect for her master's friends. It's real good to see you back in action helping us, Alpha, Ren said with a smile, as he was happy to have the robot who helped out past ranger teams on his side. It is so good to be back online, Alpha 5 said in an excited voice. New rangers to help and take care of. Oh, I am so happy I just might overload. The red light in his visor was moving back and forth quickly as he waddled around the others talking very excitedly and making them laugh. Sayla, on the other hand, didn't exactly find these funny enough to laugh at, but it was still intriguing for her to see Ren actually laugh like a kid. So, what do we owe this surprise visit from you? Navi asked them in curiosity. I wanted to know when the teleportation system will be up and running for us to use. Ren asked her. Teleportation system. The pink-haired girl was suddenly right in Ren's face. You're working on a teleporter. How does it work? Can I see it? What materials did you use to make it? What is the energy source to make it function? She fired off tons of questions with Ren pushing her slightly back and stopping her. Sorry, but that's a trade secret. But maybe we may let you in on it later, Ren said with a teasing grin. I don't think I've got your name yet. I'm Ren Amamiya, the first quirkless student at UA, and the leader of the Hero Force Rangers. Nice to meet your acquaintance, Hatsum, he said holding out his hand. Well, Mr. Power Ranger, color me intrigued, May said with a hum grin on her face while shaking his hand back. Anyway, my name is May Hatsum and I'm the top student in the support group, May said with a proud grin on her face. And I wanted to meet you for a long time after the exam a month ago. Her eyes lit up like Christmas lights. I take it you saw what I and the others did then, Ren said knowing where this was going. Did I saw it? Everyone saw you and the other Power Rangers did at the exam. I watched how you Rangers dominated those robots with your incredible suits and weapons. I was completely awestruck by the technology you Rangers have up your sleeves, May shouted with admiration before latching onto Ren's arm. Which is why I wanna make tons of babies with you, she declared to him, which widened everyone's eyes. Babies, Ren shouted with a blush across his face while taking a step back in surprise from the offer. Naya, Hiroka cried out in anger. Sayla narrowed her eyes deeply at what May just said in front of them all. She's just had to say that Navi sighed because the girl created another misunderstanding. That girl, Solon said shaking her head at the girl. I have tons of ideas on how to our babies and you are the only one right for the job. Come in, May said as she dragged Ren by the arm and pulled him into the room. Unfortunately for the young investor, Kuroka and Sayla didn't like the sound of that and intervened to defuse the situation. Naya, Kuroka said and quickly got in front of her mate to put herself between him and May, removing him from her. If anyone going to make babies with him, it's going to be me, she declared while glaring at the girl. What does she mean by making babies? Sayla asked in a dangerous tone while glaring at the human girl. It's what she calls her inventions. The inventions that have a tendency to blow up, Power Loader said, gritting his teeth. Hatsum, clean up this mess before the other students arrive in class. And be more mindful of people's personal space, would you? He told the girl. Gotcha, May said before she sped back over to whatever she was working on. I'll at least help her to speed things up, Solon said before leaving to help the pink-haired girl. I'll assist you, Solon. 6 hands are better than 4, Alpha 5 said following behind. Her inventions blow up, Hiroka asked with a raised brow. All the damn time, Power Loader grumbled in frustration. I'm lucky that your robot friends are here to keep her explosions minimum to own a few a day, he said giving the robots a thankful expression. I see, Ren said awkwardly not knowing how to relay back to that. Honestly, as much of a pain as she is, Power Loader pinched his helmet's forehead before exhaling a tiring sigh. Hatsum is probably one of the best support items designers you can get. See that mountain of junk over there? He pointed over to a corner. Off to the side, everyone turned and finally saw a mountain full of gear and tech that had been worked on very well. It was easily 3 times as big. She made that since the beginning of this semester, Power Loader sighed, making their eyes widen. Hatsum spent way too much time here, seen a lot of students come and go, but she is something else. She made all of that in less than a week since school started, Ren questioned, with a tone of shock and impressment looking at the pile of tech. Hiroka and Sayla joined him in examining the mountain of gear and picked some out to look at. As Holotommy looked through the Master Morpher, I'm not going to lie, this is pretty impressive. These are actually some pretty good designs, Holotommy thought inspecting the items that May made. She reminds me a lot of Billy when it comes to obsessing over technology. Not bad, Sayla commented about the human girl's work, as the Etherius could tell that this was worked on with great care. I may not be a technology person, but even I gotta give credit where it due, Hiroka said, looking over one of the inventions. She really made all of this stuff despite being a first year, Ren asked with interest, putting down the gear back in the pile. They may be rough around the edges, but she has the heart and soul of an inventor, and puts a lot of love and care into everything she makes, Navi said about the girl, as said girl moved back over to them with an excited look. Yup, I pour my blood, sweat, and tears into my inventions. They're my children, Nei said, pumping her chest out with pride. Mei Hatsum, future CEO of Hatsum Industries, and I want to be your personal support technician, Ren Amamiya. She pointed at him. You wanna what now? Ren asked her with a bit of surprise. I want to be your personal support technician, Nei said, standing close to him again. In return for letting me tinker with your tech, I'll personally make you and other rangers more support items in the future, she said with a big grin. Can you even do that yet? Ren said, very surprised. Actually yes, Power Loader said, entering the fray. Eventually, as a hero, you're going to have a specific support company who supports you as you promote them. So UA usually has the hero course, each taking a specific supporter. This time there's 20 support heroes and 22 heroes in each respective class for the first years, he explained as he walked in with a bunch of tools. Oh, Ren replied, looking like he was deep in thought as he was thinking about her offer for a minute. The top support student wants to be my personal support technician. She sees potential in me. He looked back at her before speaking once more. But I'm quirkless, you know. Are you sure you're alright supporting me? He waited for Mei to walk away from him, since that is what he was used to. Oh, Mei said, blinking and tilting her head to the side. Well, that's no problem for me, she stated, making him look at her in amazement. It doesn't bother you? Ren asked, wondering why she was so calm about it. Mei shrugged her shoulder. I've got a quirkless cousin, so I don't care about that as long as I get to create babies and make my name known to the world. I am sure that with you I can do that. She gave him a cocky smile. So want to team up, Ren? She asked, reaching out to take his hand. Ren looked at her hand for a moment and took hold of it. All right, Mei, you got yourself a deal. Let's do our best together, he said to her. However, before anything else was said, Ren felt arms being wrapped around him in a giant hug. Wahoo! Hatsum yelled as she tackled the boy to the ground. I love you, Ren Amamiya, she said with a joyful smile while hugging him tighter. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, the Master Morpher slightly glowed pink for a brief moment as Mei was chosen to be Power Ranger. Hatsum was chosen, huh? Holo Tommy thought as this was getting interesting by the second. Okay Hatsum, let the poor boy go now. He needs to get to class soon, Power Loader said to her as he looked at the time on the room's clock. Okie dokie then, Power Loader, Mei said, giving the man a salute before getting up off the Ranger. And I'll see you later. She gave him a wink before walking away. Hey, wait for me, Navi said while flying after her. Yeah, see ya, Mei, Ren said, standing up too. You really are popular with women, are you, huh? Hiroka said to him with a smirk. Seems like it, Ren said, rubbing his neck. You should get going, Amamiya. You know how Aizawa gets with late students, Power Loader said to the boy. Right, Ren said to him with a nod. Come on you two, it's time for your first day of class, he said, walking away to his classroom. Okay, yes, master, Hiroka and Sayla said right behind him. Power Loader chuckled as they left the lab. The hero sent a quick text to Nezu explaining what happened. To be honest, he was glad that the Ranger's robotic friends were there, as they were helping his students with their projects, especially minimizing Mei's explosions to only 3 or 4 times a day. He tucked his phone away and looked at the dirty folder in his hands. Yokohama City, League of Villains, Namu Factory morning. I see. Thank you for letting me know, All for One said as he then hung up the phone before looking at Kurogiri, who was waiting patiently at his side. He handed the phone to his assistant and cleared his throat. Kurogiri, please inform Tamura to have his people ready to go. The attack begins in a few hours. I will see to it that it is done, master. Kurogiri replied with a bow and opened a portal to teleport away. When he was stopped by All for One, who wasn't done speaking to him just yet. Let him know that the Alliance is sending some of their people to help him. He will still be in charge of the mission, but Lord Draken informed me that his soldiers have their own objectives to accomplish, so make sure Tamura doesn't do anything to get in their way. All for One said as he knew that he was having to lead the boy by the nose, and this was to ensure the success of his mission. Of course, Master, Kurogiri said with a bow, and teleported away to the meeting place. After a moment of silence, the computer scene in front of All for One showed a live video image of Lord Draken. Lord Draken, I didn't expect a call from you so soon before the attack begins. All for One said to him with a bit of surprise. Are you sure it is a good idea to trust that child to lead his makeshift army? Lord Draken's tone was full of doubt at Tamura's leadership capabilities after seeing him in person. Even some of my soldiers don't trust your student's leadership skills. It will help groom him to become my eventual successor. All for One replied automatically. It was true had hoped that Tamura would grow up and become the villain he hoped would succeed him. But right now he was brash, immature, and childish. I know he has recruited more villains than originally planned since we had a few extra days to prepare, which isn't enough to stop All Might or the Power Rangers. Lord Draken informed the villain with a flat tone of seriousness. You can throw as many street thugs as you want at those heroes, but it won't even slow them down. Even that secret weapon of yours won't kill the Rangers. He growled at this before speaking again. I will instruct Thrax and some of my lieutenants to follow Tamura's orders for now. But know this All for One. If your precious student becomes a liability, then my men will take over the operation where Tamura had failed and punish him severely. He warned the man with a hint of danger in his voice. I agree. Should Tamura fail, your soldiers may do as they wish during the attack on the heroes and to him. It will show Tamura the price for his failure. All for One said with a nod of his head. He won't punish Tamura if he failed. But the villain knew how serious Lord Draken and his army were about how they did things. So the last thing he wanted was to make a possible enemy out of so many powerful individuals and agreed to their terms. Good, Lord Draken said with a nod and neutral tone before ending his transmission to the villain. United Alliance of Evil Headquarters, Throne Room. After ending his call with All for One, Lord Draken is seen sitting on a throne while the room is surrounded by his loyal soldiers who he picked to take part in the attack at the USJ. Kneeling down below the feet of his throne were Thrax and a few other Rangers Villians who were right behind him dressed in cloaks to hide their appearances. Thrax, are our forces ready to mobilize? Lord Draken asked him. Yes, my lord. On your order, they will begin their assault on the hero. Thrax said to him. Good, Lord Draken said in a pleasant tone. The mission is to eliminate as many of those heroes and students as you can, along with the Hero Force Rangers. They're the main focus you need to worry about. This is why I'm sending you all to help All for One student, as he will be in charge of the attack. He said heard his subordinates moan in annoyance at the thought of working under that man-child. Are you that is a wise chose, my lord? Thrax said, having doubts. Massive doubts about having All for One student leading the attack on the heroes of this world. I understand you all are frustrated on having to work with Tamura, Lord Draken said with a sigh. But that's the deal we made with All for One, so just put up with that brat's nonsense for now. But if he somehow screws up this mission, then you have my permission to take over and do whatever you want to him that doesn't result in killing the boy. He said, getting some smiles from his subordinates at the thought of punishment. The decay villain. Now go and spread the seeds of chaos onto this world. He ordered. Yes, Lord Draken. Thrax and the other ranged villains said as they bowed their heads before standing up and began to leave the room to prepare for the mission. When they left his throne room, Lord Draken lets out an evil laugh at how things were going for him and his army of monsters. The time for waiting is finally over. Very soon, Rangers of this world, you will know what true fear and terror look like when I kill you all and take this world for my own. Lord Draken declared while clenching his hands in joy. Meanwhile, back on Earth, someone was standing on the rooftop of a building as he was waiting patiently for the main event in a few hours. He is a man wearing black clothing underneath a white long-sleeved robe. The outfit itself looked like something out of feudal Japan, while the man looked to be either in his early or late 20s, with black hair combed back reaching down his neck, with finely trimmed facial hair around his mouth. His name is Deku, the half-human and half-Nylok hybrid warrior. Deku was gazing down into the city watching the people of this world go about their day, as the half-Nylok was in deep thought about this new world full of superhero. Hero Force Rangers, Deku said with interest, as he tightly held his Uramasa. Maybe one of them can give me the ultimate duel I've been seeking after my resurrection, he said before leaping off the building. UA, high school classroom one morning. In the classroom of Class 1A's Hero Course, pretty much all the students were there except for a few, with everyone socializing with one another in their usual groups. Then the door to the classroom opens to show Midoriya, Tsuyu, and Uraraka happily entering the room alongside another girl dressed in the school's uniform who confused almost everyone there as they had never seen her before. The girl has short, wavy chartreuse hair with pink specks and big round eyes, with the pupils being violet on top, teal on the bottom, and yellow on the inside, and light yellow bushy eyelashes. Miss, I believe you are in the wrong classroom, Ida said, standing up quickly and marching towards the group. If you ask one of our teachers, we can make sure you find the proper classroom. His arm movements are stiff and jerky. Midoriya, Tsuyu, Uraraka, and the mystery girl looked at each other before they started to laugh or chuckle, which confused them except for Momo, Takoyami, Jiru, and Mina, who already knew the identity of the mystery girl. "Oh god, he still hasn't figured it out yet," Mina said, holding back the urge to laugh. "Seems so," Momo said, giggling behind her hand. "Well, he and others are about to be in for a real surprise," Jiru said, looking forward to seeing their reactions when they learn the truth. "Indeed," Takoyami said with a nod while slightly grinning. "Wow, Ida," Mina said, sending him a smirk. "I would have thought you would ask the girl her name before assuming she is not supposed to be here today." "It's me, Toru," the girl said excitedly, with everyone, except for Midoriya, Tsuyu, Uraraka, Momo, Takoyami, Jiru, and Mina looking at her with shocked looks on their faces to see the girl's appearance for the first time. "No way, that's what she looks like," Kaminari commented. "For real," Ajiro said in disbelief. "Holy crap, she's a total hottie," Minta said with a pervy smile. "Her appearance is more dazzling than I could have imagined," Aoyama added. Toru's smile grew as people looked at her with confusion and awe. "But I thought you couldn't turn off your quirk. How is that even possible?" Ida asked with a stunned look. "It was all thanks to Midoriya that I was able to control my quirk like this," Toru said with a grin while showing a silver ring on her left ring finger and shocking the class even more to learn the one responsible for this. "So how do I look?" She then did a little twirl to show off her visible body. "Midoriya, what did you do?" Ida asked while looking at his friend with wide eyes. "I just used my power to create a special item that changes Toru's quirk from a mutation type to that of an emitter type," Midoriya explained as he used his magic along with his knowledge of quirks to make a special ring for his girlfriend. "So as long as she's wearing that ring, Toru can turn her invisibility on and off whenever she chooses." It was around the weekend when Midoriya made that special ring for Toru and remembered how she was shocked to see herself in the mirror for the first time in years when her quirk manifested with her beginning to cry like a baby, remembering the childlike face she used to have when she was younger, and now she is a beautiful grown woman. "Dude, it's freaking awesome you were able to do something like that for her," Shiro said to the green-haired boy with a grin. "Yeah bro, real manly," Kirishima said, giving him a thumbs up. "It was not really, guys," Midoriya said, rubbing the back of his head in embarrassment. "Come on, Deku, don't be like that," Uraraka said, slapping him on the back. "Take the compliments. You earned it after helping Toru regain her visibility," she said, smiling, with Tsuyu nodding happily in agreement. However, while everyone was parsing Midoriya for helping her and Toru showing off her looks to the class, with various students came over to talk to her briefly. Bakugou, who has recovered from his injuries, glared angrily across the room as he didn't give a shit about the invisible extra's appearance. But that Deku was center of attention again, which only pissed him off at how every one of these stupid extras was eating out of the palm of the nerd's hands. "Enjoy the spotlight while you can, Deku, because when I become the #1 hero, no one will ever remember a useless pebble like you again," Bakugou thought with a scoff before facing the other way to drown out the conversation. However, as for Todoroki, he didn't really care for the conversation and just stayed out of it completely. Ida looked like a short-circuiting robot before he bowed his head. "I apologize for jumping to conclusions and being rude, Toru," he said quickly, keeping his body bent at a 90-degree angle. "Ren warned me about this, but it seems I haven't learned from this mistake," he said, feeling ashamed of himself. Toru laughed as she waved it off. "Relax, I'm not offended. I know me being visible would be a surprise," she told him before the girl went to hug her man by his right arm with a happy expression and eyes closed. "All of this is possible thanks to my amazing new boyfriend," she announced to the whole class. Everyone except for the ones who knew paused and looked towards the two with a look of surprise. Even Todoroki, who wasn't paying attention to the conversation, looked a bit surprised by this. "What?" Minta asked with a low tone in his voice as he was looking pale like a ghost. "Oh, you guys don't know yet, do you?" Toru said, blinking in a confused tone. "But me, Tsuyu, Uraraka, and some of the girls from Class 1B are dating Midoriya here," she said, dropping a bombshell on the whole class, with the ones who didn't know about this gasping in pure shock from this reveal, with Bakugou freezing in place and mouth hanging open, Minta having a broken look on his face, the people who knew about their relationship holding back their laughter, and everyone else looking at Midoriya in astonishment. Uraraka and Tsuyu nervously looked at each other as they had light blushes on their faces at the reveal, and hoped this didn't get out of hand. Midoriya blushed like mad and mentally counted down in his mind in worry and impinging doom that was his classmates' questions when they learned about his relationship with one of the girls from both classes. 3, 2, 1. Hoo-oo. Most of the people in class exclaimed very loudly, looking at 3 in utter shock and disbelief. Oi, Midoriya, what the hell is this story of you and all the girls going out? Sato asked in awe. Midoriya, as the friend and fellow hero in training, I can't allow such raunchy behavior. Ida scolded his friend. Are you really dating most of the girls in both classes? Seriously? Ajiro asked with a hint of hopelessness in his voice. You had them all fall for you, huh? Shoji asked with an eyebrow raised in confusion. Midoriya, my man, you gotta learn how to share, Kaminari said, wrapping one arm around Midoriya's neck and pulling him closer. Do you think you can set me up with someone? I never ask you anything, please. Midoriya, you dirty bastard. Mineta shouted as he suddenly leaped forward from where he was and grabbed onto the green-haired teen uniform jacket, then began to shake him wildly. How the hell did you score so many awesome-looking babes at once? Tell me your secret, he demanded as the class pervert held onto him with a crazy look on his face. Get off me now, Midoriya said with a tone of annoyance. Mineta, unhand Midoriya this instant, Ida shouted, moving forward to separate the two. No way in hell I'm letting this damn woman stealer go until I get some answers. How do you do it, huh? What's your secret? Mineta asked, crying comically. Why do all the girls fall for you? Stop this at once. This is no way to solve the issue, Ida apprehended, prying Mineta off the green-haired boy. Enough, dude. You're going worked up over nothing, Kirishima said while helping Ida to stop Mineta. We're going nowhere with this, Mineta, so calm down, man, Shiro said, effectively trying to end this argument. He knows what he did. I bet he enjoys doing it. You do, don't you, womanizer? Mineta said, glaring at Midoriya. Of course, out of everyone here, he would react like this, Midoriya thought as he was getting annoyed by Mineta's whining. Then suddenly, the door to the classroom opens up, making the people in the room go silent and stop and look to see it is Ren, who doesn't have a pleasant look on his face. What the hell is going on in here? Ren demanded as he gave the whole class a light stern gaze. I could hear you all scream from the hallway. Yeah, Ren, you're not going to believe this, but Midoriya is dating most of the girls from both hero classes, Kaminari stated to the quirkless boy with the juicy news. Yeah, so, Ren said bluntly with a flat tone, making most of the people in the room look at him strangely. Yeah, so, did you not hear what he just said? Mineta shouted at the boy while pointing at him. That bastard Midoriya is hogging all the females in both classes, and that's your reaction. I have to agree with Mineta on this one, Ajiro said, being a bit put off at how his classmate was being so calm about this. How can you be so calm after hear something as major as this? It's because I already knew, Ren said, making them go silent again. Hold the phone there, man. You knew about him hooking up with most of the girls already? Sato asked with a look of shock. Of course I knew, Ren said, shrugging his shoulders while not making a big deal out of it. In fact, I'm not the only one in class who knew about it, he said with his gaze looking over to the people who were already in the know about this and further shocking the people in the room. Whoa, seriously, Shiro yelled in a surprised tone as he looked around the whole class. Who else knew about this? The 7 people who knew about this all raised their hands for everyone to see, with Tsuyu, Uraraka, Momo, and Jiru having awkward looks on their faces as they blushed a bit, Toru and Mina smiling happily without a care, and Takoyami neutral expressions. No way. For real, guy? Kirishima asked with his mouth hanging open from the shock. So you all knew about this too, huh? Shoji said, turning one of his tentacles into a mouth to speak with. Yep, but that's not all, Mina said while hopping up from her seat and moving over to Ren. Then almost everyone in the room was shocked again when Mina grabbed Ren's right arm and pulled him in closer to her as she held onto him tightly with a grin. Me, Momo, Jiru, Yui, and Setsuna are dating Ren, she announced to the people in the room who didn't know, further shocking them. Soon enough, jaw hung open again in utter shock, with everyone giving a different reaction. Todoroki doesn't seem to have much of a reaction other than initial surprise and maybe slight confusion about the sudden reveal in front of everyone. Ida is freaking out on the spot, utterly unable to think of a way to handle the situation and mostly making weird hand gestures and sounds, almost as if he was trying to do several things at once but couldn't decide what to do first. Guess he didn't realize that another one of his friends was dating multiple girls after. Momo and Jiru were blushing equally as they were now the center of attention in the conversation. Mineta was down on his knees, crying and screaming "no," while Kaminari was both shocked and disappointed that his secret crush was already dating someone else. Takoyami, Toru, Urikara, and Tsuyu were silent at the reveal because they already knew the truth. but couldn't help but be concerned about how the other students would respond to this. The rest of the class was either looking at the quirkless boy or pink-skinned with surprised looks, all save for one. Bakugo's reaction was a mix of utter shock, anger, and what looked like jealousy as he was still processing how a loser like Deku was able to get a bunch of girls to sick up to him. And now the wannabe was doing something as well which pissed him off to no end. Soon enough person broke the awkward silence and it was the perv of the class who'd done it. "Oh, come on. Now the quirkless bastard is taking the girls too." Mighty yells it loud, still crying about how unfair it was. "At least save a few for the rest of us, would you? Seriously, what the heck is even going on right now?" Zero demanded to know as he was confused as hell with everything that was going on right now. "Look everyone, if you all would just calm down right now, we can explain everything to you," Mina said, trying to calm down the class as best he could. "Indeed, it would be best if we all take a deep breath to calm our nerves and get more details from them so this doesn't turn into a misunderstanding," Takoyami spoke up. "Damn right, they better explain themselves. It's not fair that they keep attracting all these girls," Maita cried out while crying out tears of blood. "Aren't both satisfied with the girls you already have on your team? Now you're moving on to other schools too," he said with everyone in the room getting his whining and complaining. "I swear this guy is giving me a real headache," Ren thought as he was about to do something to quiet Maita up for good. Deku, regardless of the noise, this shout simply muffled everything else and shut Maita up. As they all looked at who was now over his shock and Bakugo was replaced with full-blown rage. "Oh great, just my luck. Bakugo's mad now," Midoriya thought in annoyance as probably should have expected that from his former friend. As the explosive teen shot up from his chair, his eyes landed on the green-haired teen and stomped all the way to the crowd, which opened up as he passed through them toward his target. Bakugo then had a vice grip on Midoriya's shirt, dragging his freckled face dangerously close to a hand, letting out tiny explosions. "What the fuck did you do, Deku?" Bakugo yelled at the nerd with a fury of anger. "You've got to be fucking kidding me. There's no way a girl would be interested in useless Deku and a quirkless freak like you both," he said, adding Ren to the argument. Midoriya had an unreadable expression on his face as he didn't so much as flinch from the tiny explosions. He wasn't intimidated by this one little bit. If this happened earlier in the year, he would be, but now he wasn't, as he's faced scary people before and been in dangerous situations and learned about more dangerous individuals out there. He found Bakugo's threat small compared to the rest of the things he's faced. But he wasn't quite thrilled to find himself and Ren in this position, with most of his classmates hounding them both for questions, except his girlfriends, Todoroki, and the Rangers, who just silently looked at everything from the sideline and were worried for him, while Ren quietly didn't say anything as he was letting him handle this matter for the both of them together. "It's a bit complicated to explain," Midoriya said as he noticed how mostly everyone had a kind of suspicious look towards him. His prediction proved to be true, however. "How the fuck did two absolute losers like you and the wannabe get that many bitches after your sorry asses? Huh? Did you beg them to be their pets?" Bakugo yelled out louder with his hands sparking even more. "Why does an absolute worthless piece of shit like you get all this fucking attention?" he demanded as he prepared to give an explosion to the Deku's face at point-blank range. While this was happening, Midoriya's hair casts a dark shadow over his eyes as he gazes downward. He was getting angry at how Bakugo was mocking and denying his relationships with the other girls were fake. It's really pissed him off. "Bakugo," Midoriya's voice is soft, yet fueled with frustration, anger, and irritation, with his longtime tormentor dares to spit dirt on his hard accomplishments. With a shaky breath, his fists clenching so tight they turn white, the maddening Midoriya peers through his green locks, his emerald gaze piercing into Bakugo's, and with a dangerously soft voice he speaks. "At least I'm not a whiny bitch who gets jealousy over the little of things." The entire room is thrown into a stunned state of shock. Mostly everyone's breath hitches, even their hearts stop in place, as they all take in the words that have left Midoriya's mouth. Words that they never thought he'd even be capable of pronouncing, he stated with such defiance and anger. Bakugo looks like he's just taken a punch to the face, as he was shocked by Deku's words. Before he could say anything, Midoriya slapped Bakugo's hand away and released the vice grip on his shirt, then walks off, not daring to deal with his former bully bullshit right now as he marches past a stunned Bakugo, with one of his friends and girlfriends giving the boy smirk at how he just stood up to the blonde boy. Bakugo finally snaps out of his shock, his face turning red and furious with anger that Deku somehow once again got the better of him. He then turned to face Midoriya once more before moving his arm fast enough to stop the damn nerd in his tracks by quickly snatching him by his left arm and tightening his grip. "Don't you dare walk away from me, Deku." Bakugou shouted aggressively at him. "Lets me go," Midoriya said with a dangerous voice that promises pain and suffering if not listened to. "You're not going anywhere until I get some damn answers out from you, Deku," Bakugou growled in a low threatening tone while glaring hateful at him. "Now you better tell me how you, a useless bug and the damn quirkless wannabe, managed to trick all these sluts into dating your sorry asses when we all know that you'll both dead alone like the losers trash to society you two are," he stated, making most of the people in the room gasp in horror at the hateful words that came out of the blonde's mouth. But mostly the people who were closest to Midoriya and Ren glared angry at Bakugou for saying something like that about them and the girls they were dating. Midoriya didn't say anything but quietly turned his head towards Bakugou to give the bully his own dangerous glare, as the two boys looked at each other hatefully and looked like they were about to explode. "No," Midoriya responded coldly again. Bakugou's hands lit up with mini explosions. "Don't screw with me, you damn nerd. I'm sick of you acting like you're above me when you're nothing but a pebble blocking my path." Then before he could anything else, there was a flash of multiple colors in the next few seconds. Bakugou was on the floor, legs up, folded in half in a weird position. His eyes were wide as he failed to fully understand what just happened. The answer stood before him as he raised his eyes to look at the culprit, to saw all the girls in the class standing between Midoriya and Ren and the rest of the crowd, in a defensive position with each of them having angry looks on their faces. "Now that's enough," Toru stated, looking quite angry. "If any of you got a problem with them, then take it up with us as well," Jiru said while giving off a dangerous aura that made most of the boys sweat in fear. "And we're more than willing to deliver the pain to anyone who threatens our men," Mina said while glaring down at Bakugou with him growling back at the girl. "Normally I would avoid getting violent, but right now I'm willing to make an exception with how immature you all behaving," Momo said with a glare. "Everyone," Midoriya exclaimed, equally surprised, then pulled Uraraka and Tsuyu close by the shoulder. "Look, you don't have to get involved in this," he whispered. "I know, but how could we not?" "Ribbit," Tsuyu said with her calm and collected demeanor gone and was replaced with a look of rage. "Tsuyu, right, Deku? This would end with you both being blamed for something we focused on you too," Uraraka whispered back, then turned around and gave an intimidating glare at the boys, who even took a step back, except for Bakugou, who didn't back down from the glare. But Midoriya stopped himself when Ren placed a hand on his shoulder and shook his head to silence his teammate. "Let them handle this one, Midoriya," Ren said to his friend. "All right," Midoriya said with a quiet nod as he left this matter to the girls. Ida fixed his glasses and cleared his throat, while he inwardly cheered for the girls coming to aid Midoriya, and Ren supporting his personal ship. This situation was definitely not ideal. At least the girls managed to defuse the conflict, and he was glad for it. "Uraraka, as your friend and classmate, I require that you all explain this situation so we can avoid any misunderstandings," Ida asked, and was surprisingly civil about it. You would expect someone like Ida to call them out on deviant behavior. Perhaps his efforts to become more flexible extend farther than only the circle of being a pro hero. Still, they were dancing around eggshells here, and the eyes kept focused on Midoriya and Ren. For better or worse case, he would be responsible for everything that happened, in their eyes. Most of the girls were troubled about how to proceed since they acted on a whim. Seeing Bakugou say those things about their lovers made their blood boil, and before realizing it, the girls had already tossed the explosive teen over on the floor so fast it happened in an intent. "Avoid misunderstandings, right?" Uraraka said in a low voice with her eyes traveling to where the rest of the girls were standing, with equally quiet and worried faces. "You mind if I explain things to them?" The other girls in the room just quietly nodded to their brunette friend and left explaining things to her. The zero-gravity girl then sighed nervously before facing the people in the class who didn't know about their relationship and began to explain things to them. "Well, if you need to know that bad," Uraraka started, looking her classmates dead in the eyes. A bright red hue took over her cheeks. "We girls from both classes fall in love with Deku-kun and Ren. We all confessed our feelings to the one we liked, and now we've started dating them from last week. So there, that's our story. I know you all had your suspicions, and they are true. Me, Jiru, Tsuyu, Toru, Mina, Momo, and everyone from 1B are the ones who forced the idea of Deku or Ren into dating us all. So what happens now, huh?" She finished her explanation to everyone, with the class going silent to process what she told them. The mood in the classroom was still heavy in an awkward silence of some kind. But then the other girls took that as a cue to join in the conversation, standing beside Ren and Midoriya. As Uraraka said, "What happens now? If you guys have something to say, you might as well say it to all of us at once," Momo said, holding onto Ren's left hand. Okay, wait. So, just to confirm, you all have been dating two of the same guys for a while now? Kaminari asked as his answer was a collective nod. Why though? I admit Ren is a cool dude, but Jiru, he asked the girl. What? Jiru said, looking surprised at the blondie as he walked to her, holding onto her shoulders. Come on, I know I'm not the brightest, but can't we, at least try and go out? I could make that work. Kaminari asked, saying that he had a thing for the punk rock girl. It pained Jiru to do that. She kinda knew Kaminari might harbor some feelings for her. She didn't want to be rude, so she kept him around as a friend. She thought that not giving any hints of interest beyond that would be enough to deliver the message, but she had already met Ren before then and gotten involved with him. Sorry, Kaminari, I already liked him before coming to UA. It's not that you're not a cool person. It's just Ren helped me realize my dream, something I've been struggling to come to terms with for a long time. Jiru tried to give an apologetic smile, but it was hard to do so when the usually upbeat blondie looked so down. Okay, I get it, he arrived first and helped you in a big way. It's fair, I guess. Still, all of you, really, Kaminari said, sighing, looking at the group of girls. They simply shrugged. You know what? I'm going to stop myself right there because this is a lot of stuff to process. Damn, all of them, he said, mumbling a few things to himself. And as if following his lead, the other boys started to head back to their desks. The energy of the shocking news left their systems only served to tire them out even more. I guess I never stood a chance, to begin with, Ajiro said, glancing at now visible Toru among the girls. Don't be so down, Monami. I know you'll find another girl who doesn't draw a lot of attention, Aoyama surprisingly said to the tailed teen, wasn't sure whether to take this as the French student cheering him up or roasting his plain looks. Having one girlfriend seems like a lot of work. But this many? No thanks, Sato said with a shrug. Technically, there could be more in the future, right? Shoji added in with his hand mouth. Yeah, definitely a hard pass, Sato stated bluntly. Takoyami was that? Dark Shadow asked his partner. Yes, Dark Shadow, of the highest form revelry in the dark, Takoyami said with a nod. Both the bird-headed teen and his sentient shadow said, before sitting down at their desk to commune in the realm of nightmares. Oi, Minta, what are you doing? Siro asked, looking at the midget fervently rubbing his hands and mumbling some gibberish, eyes closed shut. He got a little closer and, a curse to you, a curse to you, a curse to you, a curse to you, a splinter stuck under your nail, hit the pinky on a table leg, miss every bus by a minute, just one side of your phone works, step in a puddle, runny nose on the weekends, rainy Mondays, trip on the doormat. Minta mumbles to himself in a very creepy way as a dark aura of depression hangs over him. Dude, get over it, it's not the end of the world, Siro said to him. You're only saying that because you don't have a glimpse of paradise, Siro. The purple midget burst, crying blood tears. It's not like they're the only girls we'll ever meet, right? Siro said while ignoring the sheer amount of ridiculousness in the scene he had witnessed. Siro internally admitted it was pretty cool. It's not something you see every day, you know, and the tape boy secretly hoped some of Ren and Midoriya's mysterious charms would rub on him. You would never get it, Siro. My hopes shattered and ground to dust, Minta cries out even more. Stop with the drama, Minta. We both know you would never score with any of them. Now get up and stop chanting the thousands of mild inconveniences, the tape boy said, practically dragging Minta under his arm like luggage to their desks, but not before the crying midget pointed an accusing finger at Midoriya and Ren. I hope you both get tired of them and turn gay, you dream-shattering playboys. Minta shouted at them with a crazy look in his eyes, right before his mouth was covered by tape to shut him up. Shut up. It's already too late for that, Siro said as he was getting tired of hearing Minta's whining and used his quirk to silence the perv. Todoroki, who was quietly sitting at his desk, didn't seem to care much about this as it wasn't any of his business and looked away from the group of students. As most of the guys had already returned to their seats, Ida cleared his throat loudly, which got their attention on him as he began to speak up to his classmates. Well, I can see your reasons for your relationship with Ren and Midoriya. But that doesn't fully. I'm not happy with this, Ida sputtered while chopping his arm in the air. I do not like the idea of you all doing something this highly inappropriate. We are here to be heroes, and we should strive to. Ida. Uraraka began to speak in a tone that not only cut Ida's rant off, but also made him flinch from the cold stares that all the girls were giving him. Why yes, you Uraraka, Ida nervously said with a gulp as he trembled in fear. Let's make something very clear to you. Do not force your own ideals onto us. Uraraka spits out with narrow eyes, right before Momo takes over. There is a time and a place for heroics, Ida, and us having a loving relationship with them is not one of them, Momo said in a venomous tone. And besides, the nature of our relationship is, how do you say, none of your goddamn business, Mina said in a blunt tone. What we do with our relationships behind closed doors is our business and no one else's, Jiru said with Tsuyu and Toru nodding in agreement. Ida then suddenly screams and is already throwing himself into a bow in front of the girls. I'm sorry. Ida offers an apology to them. It seems I've overstepped my boundaries yet again. I forget that not everyone sees or does things from my point of view. I apologize for my behavior from the deepest parts of my heart. Please, will you all ever forgive me? He asked with the whole class staring at him, who was still bowing down apologetically. Sure, Midoriya said blinking. Forget it, man. It's not really a big deal, Ren said to him while rolling his eyes at how dramatic he was being right now. Just as long as you understand, Uraraka said with crossed arms. Thank you so much, my friends, Ida happily said while standing back up. I'm just glad we were able to diffuse any more misunderstandings, Jiru said, hoping this whole conversation would end already. Hopefully so, Ribbit, Tsuyu said with a finger on her chin. They can say whatever they want about us, we don't care, but we won't let anyone talk shit about Midoriya or Ren. Not even you, Bakugo, Toru said the last part looking at the blondie getting back on his feet, anger very apparent in his face. Yeah, they're 1,000 times better than a heartless bastard like you, Mina stated with a vein appearing on the blonde boy's forehead and irritant. TCH, dating. Cut that bullshit, Bakugo said with a scoff. How much did you get from that nerd and quirkless freak? He asked, earning a few hateful looks at him, not that he didn't care anyway. Oi, Bakugo, that's going too far, Kirishima said as he held onto his shoulder, but Bakugo simply pushed his hand away. Are you fucking kidding me? It all makes sense now. Why would all of these hoes waste their time on two worthless rejects to society? Bakugo said, casting a glance at the corner, and he could see the girls and most of the boys glaring daggers at him. TCH, that's the only way Deku and the wannabe would get into anyone's bed. So did they pay you extra to be nice to them, or did you all just make a friendly price out of pity? Bakugo, an angry voice shouted out. For the second time today, Bakugo was caught completely off guard. His head jerked back and his body followed, being stopped by some force holding to his shirt. A stinging sensation started to spread in his face, beginning from his nose, so he naturally brought a hand up. Was that blood? Bakugo didn't quite say the name, for it was closer to a low-pitched growl. In a flash, Midoriya moved past everyone and punched Bakugo square in the face, holding onto his shirt and bringing him to look him in the eye. To say the green teen was pissed was an understatement. Bastard, what the F do you think you're doing? Bakugo shouted at him. Apologize, Midoriya demanded his former bully. Huh? Bakugo shouted back with a weird look. I said apologize. To all the girls right now, Midoriya demanded while gripping his shirt tighter. Feeling an eye twitch, Bakugo mirrored the grip on Midoriya's shirt. The nerve of that nerd, he was the one who did that. Oi, Deku, do you think you can act up just because you're sleeping with a bunch of bitches? Bakugo insulted him, which only angered Midoriya more. I told you to apologize, you piece of shit, Midoriya said, lost in his rage. Perhaps it was Midoriya cursing, or maybe it was the two of them raising fists to beat the shit out of each other. But before they could transform the common room into a fighting arena, the other boys intervened, pulling the two of them apart and restraining them. Good thing Sato and Shoji were the taller and bulkier ones around. But even then, stopping those two from killing each other was proving to be a challenging task. Let go of me, you fucks. Deku, I'm gonna fucking explode you to hell, Bakugo shouted while struggling to break free from the guys holding him back from killing the nerd. Try me, you arrogant cunt. One more word about them and I'll Detroit smash your ass to the moon, Midoriya shouted back with some of the guys holding him back as well. Enough, the both of you, Ida intervened, asserting his authority as such to stop this madness. Bakugo, please watch your profanity. I really mean it this time. And Midoriya, if you would prevent further injuries, it would help a lot, he asked, but to no luck, as Bakugo and Midoriya were too angry to listen to common sense. Fuck the hell off, Four Eyes. Divided by stay out of this, Ida. The two boys shouted at Ida together, which forced the serious student to take a step back with wide eyes. As Bakugo and Midoriya were throwing insults at one another and the guys doing everything they could to prevent their two classmates from murdering each other, someone in the room finally had enough and took action to quell this madness. Bang, bang, bang. Everyone was startled and silenced by the deafening gunshots as they looked to see it was Ren, whose eyes were closed and had his legacy gun pointed up in the air while smoke escaped from the muzzle. All the people in the room's eyes rested on the quirkless boy, who let out a sigh. First off, everyone calm down. This is getting way out of control, Ren nonchalantly suggested, before putting his weapon away and attempting to wither the tense atmosphere. As everyone seemed to calm down, the attention was focused on the hero force ranger leader. The mood in the classroom was still extremely heavy, thanks to Bakugo insinuating a couple of things. Of course, none of them thought that of their girl classmates, but still, it was kinda hard to avoid that label. Ren then reopened his eyes with a sharp gaze pointed at the Bakugo and Midoriya. Midoriya, just let it go. He's just trying to rile up out of pure spite, so don't give him the satisfaction, he said to his friend, as he wasn't immature enough to give in to Bakugo's nonsense. The Emerald Child, still glaring daggers at Bakugo, then lets out a very heavy sigh that calms him down a bit. You're right, sorry for losing my cool like that, Midoriya said in a more calmer tone but was still somewhat heated up. After seeing his friend calm down from his earlier outburst, Ren ordered the guy to let go of him. Alright, guys, you can let him go, Ren said with the boys that were holding on to Midoriya releasing him. Soon his gaze fell onto Bakugo, who hadn't calmed down one bit as he looked like a snarling wild animal ready to attack. Before sighing in annoyance at how Bakugo acts more like a caveman than a civilized person. Bakugo, when they let you go, you will do nothing to Midoriya or anyone else. Understood, he stated in a no-discussion tone. Bakugo, as stubborn as ever, didn't answer back with him utterly frustrated at Ren, deeply scowling with his teeth clenched together. I said, understood, Ren repeated but this time in more of a poisonous tone. Bakugo gritted his teeth before letting out an angry growl. Alright fine, just get these damn extras off of me, he shouted at him. Ren quietly nodded to the guys holding Bakugo down to let him go, which they did as the dandelion got up with a deep scowl on his face and pointed at Deku. Man, he got some serious issues whenever those two are involved in something, Nina whispered to Toru. Yeah, all Bakubich heard was that Ren and Midoriya didn't just roll over and show their belly to him. You know, for all that he seems to think he's shit, Bakugo seems oddly threatened and insecure about the quote-unquote Deku or Quirkless standing up to him, Hagakure said harshly with the others agreeing with her. Just like the egotistical asshole he is, Tsuyu said, not bothering to hide her resentment towards the boy. Even though she had to endure Ida's lecture about using appropriate language. That small dick energy right there, Uraraka muttered to herself, though the other girls caught it with them being close by her and chuckled at the insult. Even with fewer people in the room managed to calm down, the tension in the air was still high enough to send sparks flying. Bakugo and Midoriya were still grabbing each other's imaginary necks and punching conceptual faces with them glaring dangerously at one another. Sensing this, Ren made another effort to try defusing this ticking bomb before it went off and ended badly for someone. Bakugo, if I were you I wouldn't say another word about this matter, Ren suggested to him, only to get a snarl of anger and death glare from the blonde boy. Whatever the fuck you say, wannabe. I don't give a flipping fuck about how you losers getting so many hoes after your sorry asses. Bakugo insulted them before handing them back to his desk. I still didn't hear you apologize, Bakugo, Midoriya said with a deep tone of fury. Huh, did they suck your brain along with your dick, Deku? Bakugo snapped back at him. Phew, Midoriya took a step towards Bakugo, who was waiting with hands open, tiny explosions crackling on his palm. However, the green teen felt a hand touching his shoulder, looking slightly to the side and saw Ren slowly shook his head to him to stop. Let it go, Midoriya, Ren reminded him. He's not worth it. He's right, Midoriya. Don't do any you might regret later, Ida said to his friend, hoping it would be enough to make him see reason. The green teen tightened his fists, knuckles going white. He knew Ren and Ida were right, but he couldn't let Bakugo get away with calling them that. What kind of boyfriend or man he would be if he did so. Deku, his attention turned to the other side. Uraraka held his balled fist, and it was as if her eyes drained the anger from him. You know better than anyone he won't apologize no matter what you do to him. So please just stop before it gets much worse than this, Uraraka said in a soft tone, with his other girlfriends giving him the same look. She wasn't sure of it, but Uraraka had to placate the fury of her boyfriend. TCH, I see who is calling the shots here, Bakugo insulted with a scuff. Seriously Bakugo, just be quiet. It's over, Shoji said as the boy was still escalating this matter. Yeah man, that's enough already. Quit stirring the pot. Kirishima pulled Bakugo back, a little less friendly than usual. But the explosive teen would let that one time slide. Get off my case, shitty hair, these extras are so desperate they are stuck with some losers like Deku, and the wannabe. Hey, you all, when you get tired of these limp dick losers, call me and I might show you something real, Bakugo said with smug expression. That's it, I'm going to. Jiru walked up and was about to hit Bakugo, but Tsuyu stopped her. Calm down, girl. Remember what Ren said, he's not worth it, Tsuyu said in a tone that she often used on her siblings, which surprisingly worked. I know, but I really hate him so much, Tsuyu, Jiru whispered back to her friend. I know, we all do, but fighting him will only cause more unnecessary problems, Tsuyu whispered back. Fortunately for them, there was something moving inside Ren's bag that didn't take too kindly to the nasty remarks towards him or Midoriya as the already open zipper on his book bag began to slightly open up some more to reveal hazel eyes that gave a sparkling glimmer of mischief. How about you get your own girlfriend, since someone like you will never have one with that attitude of your eternal virgin, Ren said, his smirk never fading. He then saw Bakugo pop an explosion in his hands and looked at him darkly with an angry expression. The hell you called me, you quirkless fuck. If you want me to kick your ass in front of your sluts, then fine by me, Bakugo asked while reeling an arm back to slam an explosion into the ranger. Bakugo, this behavior is way beyond what is acceptable between classmates. However, Ida's rant was cut off when out of nowhere a black blur leaped out of Ren's book bag and straight into Bakugo's face hard enough that it knocked him over on the floor as the explosive teen started to panic. Nezu, a declared war cry yelled out upon the blonde boy's face as the whole class looked down on the ground to see a black cat clawing at Bakugo's face, with him trying his best to get the animal off to no luck. Is that a cat? Zero asked in confusion. Seems so, but what is it doing here? Sato asked with a raised eyebrow. It came out of Ren's bag. Did he bring it here with him to school? Ajiro said, looking at the quirkless boy for an answer. Ren, Midoriya, Takoyami, Mina, Momo, Jiru, Toru, Yurikara, and Tsuyu looked at the black cat and knew immediately who it was and couldn't help but curl up their lips at the funny sight of the blonde getting his just desserts. The F, Bakugo angrily screamed as was dealing with the black feline currently attacking him on his face with its claws. Get the hell off me, you damn furball. Niuel. The black feline seemingly hissed out as continued to claw away at the blonde who had the cat jumping all over him, while Koda looked at this cat strangely as he couldn't understand it when he used his quirk. He was trying to convince the cat to stop before it finally stopped and leaped away, leaving Bakugo covered in many scratches and bite marks as he glared at the small animal. Who the fuck do you think you are, huh? Approaching me, Bakugo snapped as he jumped up to his feet, explosions going off in his hands. Nyahahaha, the black feline snickers in a playful manner that only infuriated Bakugo. No one had any idea what it had said, except Ren and Midoriya, who let out a snort, but they could only assume it was something insulting or challenging. I'll skin you alive, you damn, Bakugo began before he was smacked upside his head by Ren. Yeah, no, leave her alone, Ren said as he passed by the twitching teen. He stood in front of the black cat with his arms held out. You just couldn't help yourself, could you? But I guess I'll let it slide this time since it was Bakugo's fault after all. He gives her a proud smirk. Naya, the black cat cried happily out before suddenly jumping into Ren's arms, climbing up on his right shoulder, and resting there while also rubbing her cheek against his as she purrs. Ren only chuckled before turning to the class. Everyone meet Kuroka. He introduced her to everyone who didn't know about her. Naya, Kuroka said hello in her cutesy cat voice. She says hi, Ren said to them. So cute, Koda exclaimed enthusiastically in a shy manner. That's your cat, Mainta and Kaminari cried out, pointing at her while Bakugo was giving the furball a sneering gaze. Ren, pets are not allowed on UA grounds, Ida exclaimed, chopping the air. Okay, first off, Ida, I've already gotten permission from Principal Nezu to have her here with me, Ren said as he casually petted Kuroka on her head, getting a purr as a response. And second, Kuroka isn't even a cat, he said, getting weird looks from most of the people in the class. What do you mean that's not a cat, bro? Kirishima asked with a raised brow. Because correct me if I'm wrong, that looks like a straight up cat. Takoyami, Midoriya, and all the girls couldn't help but grin at how clueless they were about who the black cats really were. Well, if they were shocked about the girls dating Ren and Midoriya, then this dark secret will make them lose it, Takoyami quietly said to himself, as his partner was the only one to hear him. Yeah, it's going to be real fun to see their reactions to this, Dark Shadow said with anticipation to the Nekashu reel. Well, looks can be deceiving, my red-haired friend, Ren said before turning his head to the cat on his shoulder. Okay, Kuroka, you had your fun, now show them who you really are, he asked her, getting. Well, since you ask so nicely, might as well properly say hello to your classmates, Kuroka said in a teasing manner, as most of the people in the room were surprised to hear a cat speak like a human. What the heck? Did that cat just talk? Zero asked in shock. But before anyone could answer, Kuroka hopped off of Ren's shoulder and onto the floor, then began to dispel her senjutsu illusion to reveal her true form for everyone to see. Hello everyone, the name is Kuroka, the black Nekashu said with a glint of amusement dancing in her amber hazel. Please do take good care of me. She then teased them by licking her lips with an expression while also balling up her hands to make cat paws to do a cat-like gesture that made eyes bug out of their skulls at the attractive woman in front of the room, standing next to Ren. Minda froze in place as he saw something that made his eyes almost burst out of his sockets as his nose began to bleed. A total babe is here in our class, he shouted at the top of his lungs. Bella-Yama commented quietly at the incredible beauty. Ren, who is she? Shoji asked with his eyes widened. Yeah, bro. Damn, she's hot. Kaminari says that most of the guys agree, with a few eyes being drawn to her slightly exposed breasts, or her exposed legs and the near appearance of her private areas. She's beautiful. A real knockout dream girl. When did you meet a girl like that? Sato asked with his face red. Hey, is it weird to anyone else that her having animal features makes her a bit hotter than normal? But am I the only one who thinks it's a bit strange? Zero asked while some can't deny he has a point. WWW, what are you doing walking around dressed like that? Especially in a place of learning. Ida shouted at the cat yokai woman as his face was red all over. Miss, please put on something more decent right away, he demeaned while chopping his arms. Don't get your panties in a knot, kid, Hiroka said while giving him a teasing grin before showing off a bit more of her chest to the boy. It's not like I'm walking around completely nude, or are you hoping for that, you naughty boy, she said, licking her lips. Ida couldn't reply back, as its face was steaming from embarrassment and frustration from Kuroka's slightly seductive behavior, which made most of the male members in the room blush. Midoriya meanwhile is blushing slightly at what was happening to his friend, and Takoyami fought the blush on his cheeks with Dark Shadow laughing at him, as they were already used to Kuroka's teasing nature. Bakugou only scoffs as he doesn't care about Kuroka's looks or flirting, and Todoroki just looks on with an eyebrow raised in confusion as he looks at the woman. When the girls met Kuroka for the first time, they felt a bit intimidated not only by the size and shape of the woman but also by the confidence she radiated and her impressive and imposing figure. Jiru felt the most insecure among the girls as she looked down at her chest before saying, "Great, another woman to be compared to." Having someone like Sayla's figure around was bad enough without Kuroka joining in to remind her of how small she is. Momo tries to bring up her friend's confidence, but she too is also a bit intimidated and feels a bit small in comparison. Kuroka really does know how to rile guys up, Mina commented with a giggle as she liked the Nekashu style. Yes, but we have to be careful of a certain someone who will spy on her and us, Momo said with all the girls turned to see the class perv. They saw Minta looking across the room from his seat while drool ran down his mouth as his gaze remained glued onto Kuroka's sexy body. Boobs, Minta called out creepily as seeing the Nekashu dressed like that in front of his eyes was like a wrapped gift. I want to touch them so badly it's killing me. He just wanted to go jump on those huge breasts and play with them all day long. Disgusting, Momo commented with a repulsive expression. Agreed, the other girls said in agreement. No pointing and trying to tell her to dress normally because she won't even listen to me about that, Ren told his friend while also getting him to snap out of his flustered state. Ida soon got over his embarrassment by coughing in his hand and then asked her another. I see, well if you won't listen to me or Ren, then you should at least cover yourself a bit more up. This is a place of learning and people will get distracted by your appearance. If you can't behave like this then I will have no chance but to report this to the teachers. He lectured her about how she was dressed much to Kuroka's amusement. Yeah, good luck with that, Ida, Ren thought while shaking his head at the idea of Kuroka not wearing decent clothes. I promise to be a good little kitten, so the big strong heroes don't arrest me, Naya, Kuroka said with her usual mischievous tone, while also making it obvious she was trying to dazzle him with her breasts. The black folds of her kimono fell away more than they already were and exposed her flesh fully, causing the speeder and a few of the guys to turn their heads with a look of displeased on Ida's face. Stop that when I am speaking to you, Ida demanded to her with him blushing hard from the black Nekashu behavior. It's highly inappropriate. Awa, don't be such a mood kill, Naya, Kuroka refuted before stepping closer to him. She leaned into the boy's ear before whispering huskily in it. You'll never get a girlfriend if you're this stiff all the time. She made Ida quickly back up into a wall as his face was atomic levels red. Stop that at once, Kuroka. It's making me you uncomfortable, and FF feels like I need an adult. Ida said to try to lecture her but failed to do so as he sounded like a broken record. But I am an adult, Naya. Kuroka fake pouted as her twin tails waved around freely a few times before turning to face the girls of the classroom and beginning to start a conversation with them like nothing had even happened. Seriously, who is this woman? Most of the guys in the classroom asked themselves. Aw, man, I wanna lick her everywhere, Minta said with a perverted smile on his face. Kaminari slightly agrees, and the both of them are rewarded with punches to their heads, courtesy of Dark Shadow. It's not cool to make comments like that, Dark Shadow says, and all the girls mentally clap a thank you to the quirk and its user. Well said, Dark Shadow. Takoyami nodded in agreement as he didn't like their remarks about his leader's girlfriend. By the way, Kuroka, if you don't mind us asking what your quirk? Kirishima asked the woman with a blush on his face as he thought she was beautiful. Not at all, it's called Nekomata. As all of you can see by the ears and tails, it's a mutation type that gives the abilities of a Yaokai Nekomata. Kuroka explains, while lying about her Yaokai heritage being a quirk since nobody would believe the fact she was a supernatural being from another world, except for the Rangers. A Yaokai-based quirk. Can't say I ever heard of someone having a power like yours. Ajiro commented about her power. Hey you damn bitch. Bakugou yelled at her to get Kuroka's attention on him, along with everyone else in the room. I should have known you were one of the wannabe stupid sluts. He stomped over to the woman with a look like he was ready to murder. You're going to pay for that shit you pulled on me earlier, hack. He showed off his quirk to scare the devil Yaokai, but to no luck as she wasn't intimidated by the teen's power, but didn't like his hag comment about her. He's just a ball of anger and clearly he's on a short fuse. Kuroka thought didn't like this boy's attitude at all. Who or what is a wannabe? She just figured out this boy was the Katsuki Bakugo that Ren warned her about ahead of time if she ever met him. He's talking about Ren, Midoriya said to her. Or that's the name he likes to call him since Bakugo rarely calls people by their actual names. He knew his former friend better than anyone else here. Nobody asked you, Deku, so shut your useless ass up like the weak loser you are. Bakugo snapped at him very quickly. Kuroka locked her eyes onto Bakugo with cat-like pupils showing a dangerous glare. Deku too, are you incapable of calling someone by their actual name? So I'm going to ask you again, why do you call Ren and Midoriya by those names? She asked in a very serious tone, as her playful nature was gone. Ren immediately recognized the change in her tone, and alarms in his head went off. Shit, she looks like she's going to kill him. Bakugo may deserve it, but I don't want her to go overboard on him. He thought as it was rare for Kuroka to show this side of herself. The others looked at the black Nekishu staring at Bakugo and hoped nothing bad happened. Why does she want to know so badly? Bakugo was slightly confused why she was so pissed. Cause that's what they are. A defenseless nerd who is completely useless no matter what he does and a pretender who's trying to be a hero without a quirk. He stated to her. Kuroka blinked a bit at the boy's childish logic. Wait, what? You heard me. They are nothing but a useless defenseless Deku and a fake me-out wannabe. Bakugo said with a more aggressive and arrogant tone. Now do you finally get it, cat bitch? Because you still owe me a fight after what you did to me. Are you serious? Momo said in disbelief mixed with irritation at how he was bad-mouthing her teammates. You guys already fought last week and you lost. They even saved us after you almost killed them and your own teammates. Wait, he almost killed who? Kuroka asked looking at the rich girl, while also raising an eyebrow. You are in no way acting like what a hero is supposed to be. Bakugo, Yurikara said with a murderous gaze. All you do is insult people and act like they are beneath you. Heroes don't do that, and both Izuku and Ren aren't useless, because they're more heroic than you'll ever be. And you still refusing to see the truth is just plain pathetic, ribbit. Tsuyu shook her head while looking at Bakugo with scornful eyes. I guess it's too much for an ass like you to act like a decent human being when the only thing you're good for is being a complete jackass to every person you met. Nina said, giving him the same look as her frog friend. You're just a big bully who is pretending to be a hero. Toru commended with a harsh glare. Tusk, shut the hell up, side characters. Bakugo shouted at them with a death glare. I don't care what other extras think about me. It's not going to stop me from being the #1 hero and making you idiots realize just how weak you are compared to me. He retorted in a dismissive tone. That's never going to happen. Concerning that you're the weakest member of our class, Jiru said blatantly. How dare you? Bakugo roared at the punk rocker. I am not weak. Don't go around spouting nonsense. Is it really nonsense, though? Jiru asked him with a critical glare. To me, a person who cannot accept their mistakes and move forward while carrying the weight of those mistakes is really a weak person. And right now, among all of us, you are the only one who is refusing to take accountability for your past actions. She knew it was more likely a product of pride and Bakugo wasn't showing what he was really feeling. But to her that made it worse. Not allowing himself to show remorse to others meant the panic he'd shown initially was more because he was scared of what it meant to him rather than how it had affected Midoriya and others he bullied in the past. What? Scared to face the consequences of your actions? Uraraka asked as she glanced at Bakugo, as if. Bakugo scoffed at her. I ain't scared of nothing, round cheeks. Especially not those two losers over there, he said, referring to Ren and Midoriya. So those names you call them and everyone else is just an insult you came up with. They turned to Kuroka, who was now very calm and had lost all the edge she had earlier. She was no longer ready to attack and looked at the explosive teen with a neutral expression and disappointment. What's so wrong with wanting to help others even when they don't have a quirk? How did he think of himself as the hero when he just wanted to hurt people? He's too young to understand just yet. He's had too many people praising him. He's saying things he doesn't fully understand. He's making claims he doesn't know he can fulfill. He's trying to hide his own insecurities, his own fears. Deep down, he's just as nervous as anyone else would be. He's just a delusional human who was given a taste of power as a child and is now abusing it to satisfy his own selfishness. He's not perfect or understand what true strength is just yet. He's just making excuses for his behavior. He hasn't experienced reality yet. But one day he will change. When he goes into the real world and sees what it's like, he'll change. He'll grow up. He's ambitious, that's all it is. He doesn't understand what else comes with being a hero. He's only focused on one aspect. He can change. He will change. It just takes time. He sees everything as a competition. It's not about anything but being the best. He can't accept anything else. It's his greatest flaw, that's all. He'll change and be different when reality slaps him hard in the face and shows him that the world or others don't bend to his whim. To the Nekashu, Bakugo was just a delusional, arrogant, immature kid living in his own fantasy bubble that he created to make himself feel important, when in reality there was nothing special about him in the slightest. It's almost sad, really. She can only pity the explosive boy for his small worldview when it comes to understanding what real power looks like. That's all that is. An insult, Kuroka said plainly, with the students staring at her in confusion as to why she just instantly chilled out. No shit, it's an insult, you old hag, Bakugo said, adding the final nail in his coffin. A tick mark appeared on Kuroka's forehead with the woman in question looked fine but had a demonic aura surrounding her body that felt like it was straight from the depths of hell itself. With most of the guys in the room now sweating bullets as they absolutely knew that was the one thing you never call a woman unless you want a world of pain. Even the girls felt a bit intimidated by the deadly aura the older woman was putting off, as everyone began to move away from her for their own safety, and to avoid the bloodbath she was about to unleash on the blonde-haired boy who awoke in her fury. Yep, he's so dead, everyone in the room thought while slowly backing the hell out of the way. Kuroka, Ren said nervously by the yakai woman's aura. He already knew that Bakugo would try to anger her into a fight. That's just who he is. But it would end very poorly for him, because of how much more stronger Kuroka was than him, since she once stated to the ranger that her power rivals that of an ultimate class devil. Bakugo felt the menacing aura Kuroka was giving off and had a bloodthirsty grin on his face as he got into a fighting stance while also creating a small burst of explosion in his hand. He managed to bait the cat Hagen with his insults and was ready to pay her back for attacking him earlier. But before he could even say die, the demonic aura surrounding her body vanished just as quickly as it came, much to everyone's relief and Bakugo's disappointment. Kuroka took a deep breath before exhaling as she surprisingly looked calm despite the anger she had just given off a moment ago, then turned to face the Bakugo with everyone watching in silence. She knew, no matter how much she absolutely wanted to pummel this explosive wretch of a so-called hero, that Ren wouldn't want her to. You truly are a very sad person if you think Ren and Midoriya are useless, Kuroka said, shaking her hand with a chuckle before smirking at the boy. I've already seen firsthand what they can do, and your delusion, child, if you reference to acknowledge their strength to become great heroes, she said, getting a growl from him. Ha ha, that's a good one, cat hag. Bakugo mocked her with an arrogant laugh, as if those two can be heroes with their shitty powers. Speaking of power, Kuroka said as she came up with a way to mess with Bakugo, while also getting back at him for his hag insult. Is that your quirk? She said, looking at his hands that could pop out mini blasts from them. Yeah, I can create explosions, Bakugo said proudly with a mad grin as though this was meant to be impressive. So how do you create your explosions? Gunpowder, chemicals, magic, what? Kuroka asked with a smirk, but she already knew the answer to the question as she wanted to mess with him for a bit. No, you idiot. It's my fucking quirk, Bakugo yelled at her before ranting about his power. I am not some powerless fuck. I can create explosions from my sweat, he said, creating some tiny explosives. Oh, that is disappointing. It would be way more impressive too if you were able to build your own explosions. Hiroka said, partly because it was true, especially if he chose to only explode his sweat, partly because he wanted to know just how superior this kid thought he was to others just because he was born with a powerful quirk. What did you just say to me, hack? Bakugo said in a tone that was meant to be threatening but honestly fell flat. Hiroka didn't know this blonde-haired kid for long, but with the short interaction with him, she could see that Bakugo had a major superiority complex that could rival or even surpass a pure-blooded devil and any other supernatural being in her world. She had faced far more terrifying people than this kid and lived to tell about it, while the explosive teen was still only a child who hadn't even experienced what a real life or death battle was like just yet. It would be more impressive if you made your explosions. To make explosions, you have to have an impressive knowledge of how to build. You would have the skills to help you become a better fighter and hero. Instead, you have a flashy ability and unearned arrogance that makes you look more like a villain, Naya. Hiroka commented about the boy's non-causal way. Don't call me a villain, you damn cat bitch hack. Bakugo now went ballistic on her for calling him a villain. Just who do you think you are anyway? Then why in the world should I call you a hero when you haven't done a single heroic thing? And why do you seem to expect an honest answer? Hiroka said with an infuriating smile, like absolutely none of this mattered to her. But more importantly, what makes you think you are a hero to begin with? She asked as everyone was paying full attention to the conversation between her and Bakugo. What? Bakugo had never heard anyone ask him that before. What are you going to become a hero? It is such an unusual goal for someone like Naya. Hiroka said, mocking him. By beating up all the villains, of course, and becoming the strongest person in the world. Bakugo answered confidently, only for Hiroka and the other students to stare at him with multiple diffident looks, as if they didn't like his answer, and Bakugo reminded himself that he didn't care what others thought of him. How foolish, truly the plan of a child. Heroes aren't heroes because they are strong. They are heroes because they help people, give them hope, they are idolized, and embody the values of their time. When they die, people listen to their stories and pass them on till they become myths and continue bringing hope to anyone who hears. That is what makes someone a hero, Hiroka said in a surprisingly wise tone that left everyone in the classroom shocked at what she just said to Bakugo. Especially the people in the room who truly knew the Nekishu on a personal level was stunned by her words, since this wasn't like her at all. But they also noticed that there was no passion in her eyes as she said this, just a bland certainty, like she was reciting an obvious fact that didn't even need to be debated. Beating up all the villains of the world is a terribly close-minded idea. I may not care much about heroes, but even I can tell that your definition of a hero is wrong. You sound more like a villain or battle junkie. Perhaps it is for the best that you find a different career in life. Besides, some of the most powerful I've met or known in my life ain't heroes, and some of them aren't very nice, Hiroka said with a patronizing smile, as she knew that there were a lot of supernatural beings in her world that would give most of the heroes in this world a run for their money, especially this loudmouth brat. I ain't no stupid villain. Villains are absolute scum, besides they always lose, Bakugo said, flabbergasted and incredibly angry. That is only because history is written by the winners. I suggest you take a closer look at the people you call heroes and examine your history. Nothing is ever truly black and white. Hiroka's gaze was intense as she said that, and Bakugo couldn't help but step back. Shut up. Stop acting like you know me and where I am from. I don't care what you or anyone else say, I am going to be a hero. Stop acting like you know what you are talking about, you bitch. Bakugo yelled at her, but the black Nekishu was as infuriatingly calm as always. That only made Bakugo angrier. I guess I should have expected such a childish response from you, Naya, Hiroka said, mocking the boy one last time while turning away from him and walking towards her lover. This is why Ren and Midoriya will never lose to a villain like you, Mr. Number 1 Weekly. That only made Bakugo angrier, as he didn't want this bitch to walk away with the last word, and acted on his anger once more. With a wordless roar of rage, Bakugo charged toward Hiroka, his hands sparking, and headed for his mouth if the blow connected. Unfortunately for him, it did nothing, with Hiroka immediately dodging out of the way of his right hook in time, while also swiftly kicking him in the stomach with enough force to send him across the room and crashing into a few desks that were sent slightly flying, as he was holding onto his stomach in pain because of how powerful the kick she gives him. At this moment, the other students realized what was going on and held Bakugo back from trying to fight Hiroka again, until everyone except for the Rangers froze up when a cold pressure suddenly appeared in the classroom, making even Bakugo gasp with wide eyes. Don't bare your fangs at me, little boy, Hiroka said quietly in a dark tone, glaring at Bakugo with her hazel eyes glowing brightly as she was using her power to release a small burst of killing intent pointed directly at him. Bakugo's hands started to shake. Fear crept up his spine as an icy grip took hold of his heart. You don't belong here in this school, Kuroka stated coldly. You're nothing but an eyesore. Every breath you take is a waste. Every second you live is a sin against nature. You're a pathetic, sniveling little boy barking up the legs of titans. Bakugo felt like he was going to pass out. Sweat was pouring off of his forehead. He didn't understand what was happening to him. He couldn't be afraid. It made no sense. He was never afraid. He wasn't scared of anything. Another thing that didn't make sense was the fact that he hadn't blown that stupid bitch's face off for saying those things to him. Kuroka walked up to him and then leaned down to whisper in Bakugo's ear. Every bit of suffering that you put Midoriya through in your life and every insult you made about my mate, you'll receive tenfold. You're so used to being on top, to being the best. Well, guess what? It's a big world. There are monsters out there whose power you can't even begin to fathom. I'm one of the few of them. Now be a good little boy, and keep your mouth closed for once. At least that way you'll have some dignity left and you won't look like an asshole to everyone here, she said before moving away from him and walking back to Ren. Bakugo tried in vain to fight away the tears that stung in his eyes but couldn't with the killing intent the Nekishu was giving off along with her hateful words that spoke the truth about his character. Oh, and one more thing, Kuroka before stopping, and turning her head slightly to the side to give the blonde boy one glare. This kitty has claws, you know, little boy, and I'm not afraid to use them. Call me a hag again, and I'll make sure you won't have any children in the future. She applied, making everyone understand what she meant, as some of the guys covered their private areas in protection from the horror. Scary. All the boys thought together in great fear before Kuroka released her killing intent from the air before returning to her boyfriend. Bakugo was practically sweating nervously in fear while remembering the look in the black Nekishu's eyes, as he could tell Kuroka wasn't messing around when she made that threat to him and decided to make the smart choice not to grab this tiger by the tail again unless he wanted to permanently lose his manhood. But that didn't mean he was going to take this humiliation lying down and decided to get back at the Nekishu later. Whatever, cat bitch. Bakugo scoffed in a low tone as he slowly stood back up and held his hurting stomach. This isn't over, by the way, he said, looking away from her while grumbling in pain and anger as he quickly whipped the tears from his face. Holy shit, Mina and Toru said in awe of Kuroka, as they weren't alone in this, with the other girls also dropping their jaws at this and now had a newfound respect for the black Nekishu. Language. Ida scolded the use of vulgar language, as he and the other guys had just recovered from the killing intent effects. I swear Bakugo really needs to stop antagonizing every person he meets, Midoriya thought in annoyance as he and a few other boys picked up the desks that were sent flying and put them back in the place where they belonged. Revelry in the dark, Takoyami said in awe after feeling Kuroka's dark aura. I thought you were about to murder him there for a moment, Ren said to his girlfriend. If it was any other situation I would have done it, but I didn't want to get you in trouble for my actions, Kuroka said while holding onto his arm, as she didn't want to make the same mistake twice and hurt someone she cared deeply about. Also, like you've said, he isn't worth it. But a girl, Ren said, rubbing her head and scratching behind her ears, much to the Nekishu's enjoyment. Seriously dude, just please stop talking. You're only making it worse for yourself, Kirishima said, the blonde teenager, though he didn't fully agree with that. Midoriya, Ren, and the other girls standing their ground was something pretty manly to see again. But the red-haired boy just wished his classmates had less aggressive ways of talking. Shut it, shit-haired. Who wants a bunch of used-up sluts anyway? Bakugo said before turning around and stomping his feet back to his seat in the back of the room, a hand still on his hurting stomach, grumbling and snarling all the way. Kirishima only sighs at Bakugo's behavior before talking to Ren and Midoriya. Look, bros, I'm not sure about it, but as long as you all are happy, I guess, he said, scratching his head awkwardly. Kirishima couldn't help but look at Mina, who by chance met with his eyes. He flinched a bit and looked away, taking this as his cue to leave back to his seat. The last male standing up there with them was Ida before speaking up. This Kuroka, on behalf of Class 1A, I'm very sorry for the actions of our classmate offending you, Ida said, bowing low to the ground. Don't worry about it, since it was his fault to begin with, Kuroka said, with Ida noticing how close she was with his classmate before he stood up. If you don't mind me asking, Miss Kuroka, but what is your relationship with Ren? Ida asked her while also pushing up his glasses. You accompanied him to school and were given permission to stay on campus. His question got everyone else in the classroom to pay attention to Kuroka's answer. Oh, that's quite simple actually, Kuroka said. Smirk graced her face at that, and a hint of mischief danced in her eyes. The black cat soon hugs Ren's left arm and has a massive blush on her face. He's my mate and the man I've decided to have children with, Naya. She officially announces their relationship to everyone there. They're dating, thought everyone in the room, who didn't know. Great, another one. Bakugo thought in annoyance while rolling his eyes as he just recovered from the Nekashu kick. Mineta and Kaminari this time cry at the injustice of Ren dating another hot girl. You know what, I'm done. Siro shouted out loud as he just didn't care anymore. Same here, Shoji said as he was one of the few in the room who wasn't bothered by this. Let's just drop it, okay guys? There's already been enough drama for one day, he suggested to his classmates. Surprisingly, everyone in the room was in agreement with Shoji's suggestion and dropped the matter, with the excepting being Mineta, who was fuming in rage and glaring at the quirkless boy. I see then, thank you for clearing that up, Miss Kuroka, Ida said to her in an awkward manner. Just Kuroka, kid. I'm not that old just yet, Kuroka said as she only just turned 21 not too long ago, which was still very young for a supernatural being like herself. Alright, please forgive my rudeness, Kuroka, Ida said, apologetic tone before his gaze fell onto his two male friends before saying something to them. Midoriya, Ren, to be honest, I'm pretty shocked that you two of all people would get into such a situation. I'm also going to state that I do not approve of such behavior, as we should all strive to be the best students and heroes possible. The school grounds are not a place for a him. Anyway, it is beyond my power to stop you both from pursuing who you choose to date or any of my business to get involved in your personal lives. I understand not everyone shares my worldviews. I just wasn't expecting, you guys and all of them. Really, he said to them as he was still having a hard time processing all of this. Yeah, we know, Midoriya said as he was already feeling tired of this whole conversation. Sorry if we let you down. It's really more complicated than it looks like. No, it's not that you two let me down or anything. It's just that this whole thing is just plain weird for me is all, Ida said, making it quite clear how he feels about this matter. Yeah, well, get used to it because this is our life now, Ren said to him bluntly at how things stand right now. I suppose you are right, but in any case, congratulations on your newfound relationships, and I wish you all the best of luck in your endeavors, Ida said, bowing to them at a 40-degree angle before standing back up to look at the clock in the classroom and saw it was almost the time for homeroom to begin. Now I think it's time we put everything that happens just now behind us and get ready for class. Everyone in your chairs as class is about to start, he stated while chopping his arm in like a robot and then matched back to his seat. That's Ida for you, Uraraka said, chuckling with her eyes closed. He's too loud, Jiru said in annoyance at how loud his yelling was hurting her ears. We should get seated as well, guys, Momo said, with the other girls with them going to desks as well. What a lively morning, am I right? Kuroka Joki said with a smirk. Maybe a bit too lively, Midoriya commented with a weak smile on his face while blushing. Could have been worse, Ren said with a shrug. But whatever, it's over and done with. Not too long after that, the door to the classroom opens up with Aizawa finally arrives in the classroom as everyone's attention is now on their homeroom teacher. Morning class, everyone in your desk. Now, Aizawa said with his usual tired expression, but not before noticing a black-haired woman dressed in a revealing kimono and cat-like features. Who are you and what are you doing in my classroom? He wasted no time asking the woman. I'm Kuroka Taoju, and Ren is the reason why I'm here. It's a pleasure to meet you, Naya, Kuroka said, smiling while also ending her sentence with a Naya in a sexy tone, as she crossed her hands under her chest, making it jiggle and look even bigger than it already was. This did not go unnoticed as most of the boys in the room blushed again, with Mineta and Kaminari looking closely at the chest and rear areas given how her kimono was fluttering around. Aizawa blankly looked at the Nekashu as he didn't show it outright on his face, but the man was a little bit flustered by her black kimono plus her seductive nature that was simply irresistible. Plus, unknown to anyone who didn't know Aizawa on a personal level knew that the man was a cat lover, and Kuroka's cat-like features were not helping at all to fight the blush appearing on the man's face. Amamiya, explain right now, Aizawa bluntly asked his student for answers about this woman's identity since he brought her here. It'll be quick if I just show you the memory, Midoriya said, walking up to his teacher and placing a hand on his shoulder, before using his telepathy he inherited from the Red Dino Fury Rangers morpher to show his memories of his and Ren's time in the DxD world. After seeing the memory and learning about who the Nekashu really is, Midoriya removed his hand from Aizawa, as the pro hero let out a heavy sigh while running his hand over his face, and then he glanced at Ren and gave him a strange look. Seriously, problem children. You can't stay out of trouble for 2 days, can you? Aizawa asked as he looked at Ren with his right eye twitching. Hey, trouble finds me okay, Ren said in his defense, only to hear his teacher's groan in annoyance. Besides, it's our duty as rangers. Yeah, already know that, but it is still a headache to deal with, Aizawa said, shaking his head in annoyance before looking at the black Nekashu. And as for you, you can stay but distribute my class in any way, and you out of here. Got it, he said, knowing now that this woman wasn't a threat to his students. Roger that, Mr. Hero, Naya Kuroka said, giving him a cute wink while also tilting her head to the side. She reminds me too much of Midnight, Aizawa thought as he prayed those two never meet one another. Now you three take your seated so we can begin with homeroom, he said with them heading towards desks. Kuroka pulled up a chair next to Ren's right side of his desk and quietly seat there while also observing how a hero class is run in this world. Aizawa took his place in the front behind the podium like usual, and began to take attendance to see if everyone was there. The eraser hero was surprised when he learned that Toru was visible thanks to Midoriya, and decided to question his student later before going back to roll call. After finishing the roll call and seeing that all of his students were in attendance, the man began class. Already, welcome back everyone, and I hope you all had a chance to rest over the weekend, Aizawa said as he referred to a few certain students who were absent due to their injuries. Because things will to pick starting this week with your hero work. But before that, I need to make an important announcement first, so listen up, he said, getting their attention. We have a new student in our class, and she'll be joining us starting today. What? The class as a whole was shocked, except for the ones who knew it was. Are you serious? Kirishima added, partially gaping. As a heart attack, Aizawa said while exhaling deeply. What? Bakugo called out. Why are you adding another extra in class? The semester has already started. He stated that he didn't like the idea of dealing with another week extra trying to steal his thunder. Silence, Aizawa said, silencing the boy. Just meet your new classmate. His gaze moved to the classroom door to the person who had been waiting outside this entire time. Okay, you can come on in now, he said loud enough for the person outside to hear him. Then the door to the room opens up, showing Sayla walking in with her usual stoic expression, and everyone who didn't know about the demoness gives her a look of interest. Unlike Kuroka, Sayla didn't meet any of the other UA students except for the Rangers. Okay, introduce yourself to everyone quickly so we can get on with homeroom, Aizawa said to the demon to get this over with. Sayla didn't reply back as her emotionless gaze fell onto the humans in the room, ready for her introduction about herself. Like the teacher said, I am now a new student at this school. You may call me Sayla. Sayla was introduced to the class as the demoness forced herself to do a quick bow. Wow, that girl has horns like me, Mina cheered with her hands up. We got another hot babe in our class. Kaminari and Maita cheered in unison. Great, another extra. Bakugo scoffed at the newest extra joining the class. They'll just let about anyone join the hero course. He didn't think she looks that strong and probably has a weak-ass quirk. It is not a habit of mine to spend time with people like your kind, so there's no need to be friendly with me at all, Sayla told them as she did not bother herself with the trouble of showing these humans her gratitude. The only humans who deserved her gratitude were her master, his family, and friends, as she would rather order her body to throw itself over a bridge before she could bring herself to thank a human. Typical Sayla behavior, Kuroka said with a giggle, because unlike her the Yaokai woman had absolutely no problem communicating with humans, simply because she liked them and held them in high regard, unlike Sayla, who hated humans because of her aetherious nature. Well, so far so good. Ren thought with a bit of nervousness at how this will play out. One more thing. And this is very important, so listen closely. I am servant to my master Ren Amamiya, Sayla finished before looking at her master with a smile. What? Everyone except Aizawa and the Hero Force Rangers yelled in shock. Who? She just had to say it, Ren thought before slapping a hand over his face. Rejected already. Maita cried in agony, crying blood and asking the world why one of his classmates got a hot woman following his orders. He knows too many hottas, it's not fair. Kaminari complained with his eyes closed. Jesus, is there anyone who he isn't dating? Ajiro said, throwing his hands in the air in disbelief. Dang Ren, you scored another one. Ciro laughed as he looked at quirkless boy with a grin. What's it like having your own private servant? Ugh, please don't, Ciro. Ren groaned in annoyance as he fully expected this kind of stuff from his classmates when they learned about their relationship. Of course, there were a few details he needed Sayla to hide from the others who didn't truly know her demon heritage. But their relationship wasn't one of them, as he believed that there was no need for him to hide their relationship from anyone. But still wish he wouldn't have to deal with it. It's complicated. As complicated as having a maid, Zero said as he just laughed more, making Ren let out another groan. Then suddenly, a fist makes contact with the tape quirk user's face, sending him crashing on the classroom floor and shocking everyone there to see it was Kirishima who did the deed. Oh, what the heck, Kirishima? Zero cried out while holding his right cheek in pain and looking at the red-haired boy in anger. Why did you just slug me like that, man? He asked, with Kirishima having a shocked and confused look on his face. I didn't mean to do it, bro. I swear. It's like my body just moved on its own, Kirishima stated in a slightly panicked tone, as this got the attention of certain people in the room and knew who had the power to do that. Don't tell me, Ren thought before quickly turning his gaze to Sayla, who didn't seem to appreciate Zero's jokes either as she glared at him. I don't appreciate people mocking my master, Sayla exclaimed, then lifted all the student desks in the classroom into the air with her curse, as they hovered around Zero, who was shaking in fear, and many of the class gasping at what they were witnessing. Know your place, human, as this will be the end of your story, she stated with a cold tone, glaring murderously at Zero, who was still petrified in fear with all the desks surrounding him and looked like they were ready to attack the boy. That's enough, Sayla. Ren snapped at her while standing up from his chair before Sayla could do something there was no coming back from, stopping her from landing the final blow on Sayla and destroying the new life he helped create for her. Put the desks back down now. Thankfully, the Eutherious woman obeyed and placed the desks back to where they belonged, with everyone signing in relief. Aizawa, on the other hand, was glaring at the demon for almost killing his student and was about to stop her, until Amamiya jumped in at the last second to stop her. Sailor really needs to loosen up around humans, Kuroka thought while shaking her head. Very well, master. Sayla nodded after a moment of silence as she stood in front of the room while glaring around the classroom as if she was daring any of them to make the same mistake as Zero. Most of the students gulped nervously while avoiding eye contact with her, and trying their best not to imagine Sayla's cold and merciless eyes on them, with only a few exceptions being the Rangers, Kuroka, Aizawa, Bakugou, and Todoroki. Ren sighed in relief as he sat back in his seat, the other students relaxing a bit as well but still avoiding eye contact with the demon. Sorry about that, Zero. The quirkless apologized to his classmate who was just threatened. She's very protective. More like overprotective, Zero grumbled as he got back in his chair, and was still shaken up a bit. Amamiya, control her, Aizawa said sternly to the boy. I'm trying to, Ren thought to himself while shaking his head. Like the rest of her race, the Eutherious demons, Sayla, despite being human, she hated them and viewed them as nothing but mere insects. Tartarus was, after all, a dark guild, and Sayla had spent many years with them. Given the opportunity, she would be more than happy to kill any human in her sight. So it was going to take some time to break that old mindset of hers. And you, Aizawa shouted while glaring at the demon. Try anything like that again and you are out of here. Got it, he said to the Eutherious. Sayla remained quiet but still acknowledged the man's request, as she doing this because her master ordered her to. What in the world was that all about? Ida asked in shock. It was her quirk, Midoriya said, getting everyone's attention on him. Her quirk? Shoji asked with a concerned expression. Yeah, Sayla's quirk is called Macro Curse. She has the power to control and manipulate her targets, whether they be human, animal, or objects. Midoriya said simply at how her curse works. All she has to do is give an order, and you'll carry that order out without question. So if she wanted to, Sayla could force every single one of us to throw themselves out of the window as a suicide attempt. He explained, getting looks of shock from the students' faces at how scary the demoness power works. Although, it's a little lie to say her curse was a quirk to hide her true identity from the students who didn't know she was a demon. So you're telling us her power let her control anything she wants and we have no choice but to obey, ribbit? Suyu asked while everyone could only gulp nervously at Sayla's power. Not gonna lie, but that's a terrifying power to have, Kirishima said in a nervous tone. Yeah, I definitely don't want to get on her bad side, Toru said with a weak chuckle. So her quirk can control a bunch of shitty extras, big deal. Bakugou commented with a loud snarl as he wasn't impressed by Sayla's power. At least my quirk doesn't make me fight like a coward. Sayla just quietly glared daggers at Bakugou as she recognized his vulgar voice from when she stood outside of the classroom. So this is that human Katsuki Bakugou Master Ren warned me about, Sayla thought while looking at the boy with a glare that could kill. The Eutherious listened to their conversation the whole time and wanted to go in there to teach that explosive human brat a very painful lesson for insulting Ren. but her master told her to behave, so she chose to use words instead. Seriously, it likes he wants people to kick his ass, Hiroka commented with Bakugo twisting in her direction with a glare. What the hell did you just call me, cat bitch? Bakugo roared at Hiroka. You're wrong, Bakugo, Midoriya replied to him with a serious look, as everyone was looking his way. Her quirk can save people. Sayla can handle hostage situations easily, make villain fights easier by controlling them or other objects in her area, force criminals to confess to their crimes, break up riots peacefully, and capture villains without harming them, he said, listing off all the uses of the Etherious woman's power, with everyone listening was starting to get impressed by how useful the demon's power is. Sayla for her part was slightly impressed with how Midoriya described her macro curse, as she did a few of the things he said back during her time with Tartaros, means the heroism of course. It's not about having a powerful quirk, but how one uses it, and Sayla's power has a lot more uses than your little sparkler you call a quirk, Midoriya said with grin, getting a few good snickers from his classmates. You wanna go nerd? Bakugo shouted at how the fucking nerd insulted his quirk, as he took great pride in his power more than anything. Because I'll show you some sparklers in the afterlife. He was ready to attack Midoriya. Knock it off, Aizawa shouted while using his quirk to quiet the class before dispelling it by blinking. Now the reason why Sayla joining the hero course is because she is a guinea pig for the reform program that the principal has set up. Sometime around the weekend, Nezu and All Might went to the main building of the HPSC in Tokyo where they pleaded their case for the UARP to be approved and for Sayla to be the test trial for the program. Nezu gives them a fake file on the demoness in order to hide her true identity from the HPSC, so they wouldn't abuse her power or kill her, which would be bad since Sayla wouldn't hesitate to kill any human that threatens her. The members of the community were skeptical of Nezu's plan for rehabilitating criminals into heroes at first, but thanks to All Might's assets they decided to approve the UARP plan. Reform program? Kirishima asked in a confused tone. You mean Sayla was in trouble with the law? Uraraka asked in surprise. The circumstances and nature of Sayla's situation are confidential, Aizawa explained to them, as to not reveal too much information about the Etherious being from another universe. But what we are permitted to say is that she was once part of a criminal organization filled with very dangerous villains, he said, shocking the whole class, except for the one who knew about the demon woman's real identity. She's a villian, most of the class exclaimed in shock, fear, or worry at learning their new classmate was a criminal. Bakugo's eyes flashed with anger and exploded out of his chair. The hell is some villain trash doing here at UA? He demands while glaring at the Etherious. Nowhere, she's so freaking scary, Sato said while freaking out. We're all going to die. Minto cried as he didn't care she was hot anymore with his safety on the line. She's not going to kill us, right? Urikara said in a scared tone, as everyone who didn't know the woman on a personal level made negative comments or heavy protests about Sayla being in this school. Aizawa rubbed his temples in annoyance as he pretty much expected his reaction from his students and honestly couldn't blame them since he was against the idea of having her joining his class. Looking around the room, he saw a few of his classmates giving him glances of different varieties. Some like the Rangers and Kuroka seemed to have a neutral expressions on their faces. Others like Bakugo, Todoroki, and Ida could be seen glaring at the Etherious woman, and everyone else was freaking out or terrified about a villain standing in the classroom. Ida shot his hand up to get his attention. Mr. Aizawa, I have some concerns with the recent addition to our classroom. He spoke up while sending a quick glare to Sayla, completely unhappy with this villain in this school meant for heroes in training. Is it truly wise to let someone like her in this class, or even our school in general? Trust me, Ida, I brought up these concerns myself during a teacher's meeting about it, and while I trust Nezu, I do question his decision on this, Aizawa explained while also sending Sayla a displeased look. As much as he denies it, he does truly care for his students and isn't happy at all learning that this girl attacked one of them. But what's done is done. The hero commissioner thought this would be a way to show that even villains can be reformed given the chance. Plus, due to all her crimes being covered up, she doesn't have much of a record and we aren't legally allowed to judge her for those crimes, he said, lying about the fact she was from another world. Yeah, but how does she know Ren? Kirishima asked him with everyone looking at the quirkless boy for an answer. Because he and the other Rangers are the reason she's in this school, Aizawa said, getting a confused look from most of his students. What do you mean by that, sir? Tsuyu asked him. Ren only sighed as he spoke up to the class. Because we were out on a mission to take down a criminal organization. We so happened to cross paths with Sayla and defeated her. After I somehow saved her life, she swore her loyalty to me since then, which begins us here. He explained, revealing most of the truth to them. Everyone was shocked but accepted this answer, except for Bakugo wasn't completely convinced, but didn't do anything but just narrowed his eyes at Ren and Sayla with suspicion. I see. I guess that explains why she is very protective of you, isn't she? Mina said out loud. That, Mina, is an understatement, Ren said with a small smile. Is that the reason you guys were out of school those past few days? Shoji asked. Yes, we were recovering from our injuries, Momo said with a nod. The fight against her was quite difficult, to say the least. Well, is she really that strong? Ida asked in a tone of concern. Yeah, she is. And it took the whole team just to bring her down, especially given her power to control others, Jiru said, thinking about her fight with Sayla. A truly terrifying person you don't want as a foe, Takoyami said with a nod, as everyone was starting to worry now. Are you sure it's a good idea for her to be near us? Minda asked as his fear was justified for once. What if she just suddenly tries and attacks us when we least expect it? Look, I know you guys are worried, but I promise you that Sayla is harmless just so long as you give her something to read and don't antagonize, then she won't mess with you, Ren said to them. And why the fuck should we believe that garbage? Bakugo asked with a scowl. Once a villain, always a villain. Because everyone decides a second chance, even if they are former criminals, Ren said, challenging Bakugo with a serious gaze. That will never happen if you don't give them a chance to prove themselves. His words managed to convince a few of his classmates, except for a few who still didn't trust the Etherius. Sayla gave a tiny smile at how her master was defending her, and Kuroka gave her own smirk at how Ren was helping clear her name from a crime she committed to. Bakugo glares back at the quirkless boy for a moment before clicking his tongue in annoyance and looking away as if he wasn't going to buy into his garbage about giving a shitty villain a second chance. Anyway, now that's out of the way, just take a seat next to Amamiya until we get you a desk of your own, Aizawa said to her, getting a light nod from the demonic woman as she took her spot beside Ren's left, with the other students still keeping a close eye on the demon now that they knew she was a former villain. Fisk, they're letting in stupid villains at UA. Now, Bakugo said snidely in disgust and rage. When did this place become a charity case? It would have been better to just lock her ass up and throw away the key. He ignored the disappointed looks aimed at him by the Rangers, Kuroka, Aizawa, and most of the people in class. Sayla looked at the blonde human boy with a flat expression before speaking up. About the same time, they let some vulgar human Pomeranian into the school. Say that to my face, you horned skank bitch. Bakugo challenged her in a low, dangerous voice as he got to his feet. Hiroka smirked. We've heard you barking, little doggy, but you got any bite? She said, enjoying his reactions. The hell was that, you horn skank and cat bitch extras? Bakugo said with an aggressive look on his face as his palms were popping mini explosions. Do you two sluts have any idea who you're talking to? He yelled at her in a savage tone. A stupid human brat who was blessed with a powerful ability that looks down on everyone, especially those who are superior to you in every way, Sayla bluntly said to Bakugo's face without the slightest hesitation. So why don't you get over yourself, because there's nothing special about you at all, Hiroka bluntly said as well. What did you say, you fucking extras? Bakugo yelled back. We said to get over yourself, Hiroka said with a smirk. You think you can talk to me like that, you fuck whores? Bakugo yelled with sparks started to appear from his hands. Yes, we do. Especially considering your maturity level right now, human. Sayla bluntly as she stops paying attention to his annoying whining. How's that, little man? Was she right on the mark, or is it that you're overcompensating for something that you need to showboat your childish dominance? Ever change you get, little boy? Hiroka said with a proud teasing smirk across her face. What the black Nekishu said made most of the students in the classroom snicker or bust out laughing at the remake Hiroka made of Bakugo, with everyone getting the joke. Is that the reason Bakugo is always so angry? Nowhere he's mad all the time. I'd be too if my junk was that small. I feel really sorry for the girl he ends up with. If there's anything, girl, he can be satisfied with his small thing. Bakugo stood there trembling in both rage and humiliation as his face was as red as Kirishima's hair, with pretty much all the students laughing at him. You talk a lot of good shit, but you can't take it when someone does it back, Hiroka said with a smart-ass smirk. Can't handle a little harmless teasing, you whiny bitch. And you are all high and mighty about how you're the strongest thing in the world, when the truth is you're fucking pathetic. So watch your filthy mouth, you stupid human, Sayla warned the boy. You're nowhere near strong enough to be this arrogant, since you are by far the weakest person I've ever seen. She spoke up. Her monotonous voice was loud and clear. It didn't take long for Bakugo's anger to finally reach its limit before lashing out in a fit of rage. You both are dead. Bakugo seethed out like a raging bull and prepared to attack them. The whole class was watching to see who threw the first punch, and some of them were hoping to see the two girls finally put Bakugo in his place. Enough, Aizawa yelled out while activating his quirk again to stop Bakugo from attacking two people more powerful than himself. Bakugo, back in your seat. Now, he watched the blonde hot-headed glare at the two women before sitting back in his chair and grumbling something with a scowl. After that, the man closed his eyes to stop his quirk before lightly glaring at the two women. As for you two, don't antagonize him or anyone else in my class. The only reason the both of you are here is because of Amamiya. Got it, he said to them. Got it, Naya. Furuka gave the man a wink. All the while Sayla simply nodded and didn't react to anything that was said about her. Good, now then let's get on with today's lesson. We've wasted enough time already, Aizawa said. With all the stuff about Sayla covered, the class got on with the school day, hoping that this day would just go on as normal. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 17. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author GokuMuto on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.